My parents forged medical records to force me into surrogacy for my sister. I refused. They called me selfish and pressured my family to push me. I never imagined that I would be writing this post, but following last week's events, I need a different viewpoint. My parents abruptly contacted me after 13 years of little communication, stating that they needed to talk about something significant. Greg, 43M, my husband, was concerned that something odd might be happening, but neither of us could have foreseen what would happen. Emily, 44F, my older sister, has always been the family's golden child. As a child, it was obvious that she was everything my parents could have ever hoped for. Intelligent, athletic, attractive, and seemingly flawless. She was frequently praised by them, who referred to her as their perfect princess or golden apple. 2 years after Emily's death, I was an unexpected surprise. In my parents' perspective, being unexpected wasn't my only sin. I was born prematurely and had a severe cardiac issue that had numerous operations and ongoing care during my early years. Even though my grandparents paid for the majority of the medical bills that insurance did not, my parents never let me forget how much of a financial burden I was. We could have taken that vacation if we didn't have all these medical bills. Or Emily's college fund would be bigger if we didn't have to deal with your hospital stays, are examples of the passive-aggressive remarks they would make. Their treatment of us was a sharp and terrible contrast. My accomplishments were hardly recognized, but Emily's little victories were honored with parties and gifts. In high school, I recall winning a writing contest at the state level. Emily had a regular soccer practice that day, so my parents were unable to attend the award ceremony. The everyday small things that truly brought home to them how different we were from them weren't simply the significant events either. Emily was well aware of her status as a golden kid and made the most of it. Knowing that our parents would never support me, she would frequently bully me. When I was 12, I was shoved down the stairs by her after I unintentionally touched her science project. For weeks I had a huge bruise on my back. My mother's reaction? You should be more careful around Emily's things. That was it, just another reminder that I was less valuable than her possessions, with no care for my hurt or retribution for Emily. My only way out was to go to school, but even that was difficult. I struggled to stay up because I missed a lot of classes due to my health problems. While I was fighting to maintain mediocre grades in between medical stays, Emily was achieving straight A's and dominating in sports. The analogies persisted. Why aren't you more like Emily? Emily never struggles with her assignments. Emily doesn't cause us this much anxiety. I had figured out how to blend in as much as possible by the time I got to high school. That was simpler. Emily already had a ton of friends, was headed to a prominent institution, and was leading the ideal life my parents had always desired for their kids. In the meantime, all I was doing was surviving each day without feeling like a total failure. Going to college was the true turning point in my life. In order to move as far away from home as possible, I pleaded with my grandparents. They were the only ones who ever truly stood by me, and they understood, having seen the dynamic unfold for years. I selected a university that was several states away, and they assisted me with tuition and other costs. I met Greg when I was a college student. He was patient, compassionate, and truly interested in me as a person rather than as a weaker sibling, which set him apart from everyone else I had ever met. I felt appreciated and acknowledged for who I was for the first time in my life. After graduation, we were married and I believed that I could finally be able to achieve the family life I had always desired. Emily and my parents hardly noticed my wedding. They didn't send a card, they didn't come. I wasn't shocked, but it stung. I was embraced by Greg's family, and his mother even assisted me in choosing my wedding gown, something I had always dreamed of doing with my own mother. We made the decision to try for a child a few years into our marriage. Because of my cardiac condition, my doctors told me that getting pregnant would be quite dangerous, but we still wanted to try. The pregnancy was really challenging. Despite my many hospital stays and near-death experience during delivery, I barely survived and our son was born healthy. The physicians were very clear, I may die from another pregnancy. It was just too much for my heart to bear again. With our small family, Greg and I were happy. Away from my poisonous family, we had each other, our lovely boy, and a tranquil existence. My only communication with Emily and my parents was through sporadic phone calls and holiday cards. The separation was restorative. Then came last week. My parents contacted me, stating that they had an important conversation to have. I agreed to see them at their home against my better judgment. Greg accompanied me to provide assistance. They handed me an envelope and seated us down in their living room, the same space where they had repeatedly mocked and disregarded me during my early years. There was a letter inside, but it was a surrogacy agreement, not just any letter. Emily has been having infertility issues, so they wanted me to be her surrogate. They had already conferred with physicians and attorneys, prepared all the necessary documentation, and were presenting it to me as though it were final. As though I had no say in the matter. I was taken aback. They were aware of my cardiac condition. They were aware that I had almost passed away when giving birth to my own baby. They were aware that I could die from another pregnancy. However, they didn't care about all of it, they just cared about providing Emily with what she desired. My mother started crying as I attempted to explain that I was physically unable of doing it and that physicians had specifically advised against getting pregnant again. She cried, "How can you be so selfish? Emily has always wanted to be a mother, this is her only chance." My father added that after everything the family had done for me, I owed them something. What had they done for me? What specifically had they done to make me feel unworthy for the rest of my life? My grandparents paid the medical costs they loved to hang over my head. Greg and his family provided me with the emotional support I required. My parents' sole constant behavior was to tell me that I would never be good enough to be Emily. With my mother's charge of selfishness still echoing in my ears, I sobbed as I left their home. Greg was incensed not only at their request but also at the way they totally disregarded the possibility that I might die. He advises me to stop communicating with them as they have shown beyond a reasonable doubt that they are indifferent to my welfare. I know in my heart that he is correct. This suggestion is cruel in addition to being unkind. As usual, they want me to sacrifice my life and maybe leave my son motherless in order to give Emily what she wants. However, I also feel guilty about it. Perhaps I'm being self-centered. Perhaps I do owe them. Perhaps this is my opportunity to finally show them how valuable I am. Even though I am aware that these thoughts are harmful, they continue to race through my mind. Since that day, I have not returned any of their calls or messages. Emily has begun contacting me as well, with false statements like, "Family helps family," and, "I would do this for you if the situation were reversed." Should it be a little bit out of her way, she wouldn't even offer to drive me to school. My son is on my mind all the time. If something were to happen to me while I was pregnant, he would be the one who would suffer the most. He needs his mother and is innocent in all of this family drama. How can they expect me to risk leaving my child an orphan in order to satisfy Emily's demands? Am I being self-centered? I've been told throughout my life that I'm bad for prioritizing my own needs. However, this is now about my son, my husband, and my life, not just about me. But I'm being tormented by guilt. I need a different viewpoint. Is it incorrect of me to decline to serve as my sister's surrogate? Should I put myself in danger to fulfill her desires? How can I handle the manipulation and guilt? Update 1. A week has passed since my last post, and things have gotten far worse than I anticipated. My family's calls and messages haven't stopped vibrating on my phone. Emily has been sending texts that manipulate emotions non-stop. This is my final opportunity to have my own child, and I've always wanted to be a mother. Remember how I always looked out for you when we were kids? She even dared to ask. That one almost made me laugh. She must remember our early years quite differently than I do. She sent a particularly nasty email yesterday, saying, "Mom was right about you. You always thought about yourself." I suppose that almost dying while pregnant is merely a pretext for not assisting me. It was a powerful blow. Instead of treating my near-death experience as a valid medical issue, they are exploiting it as proof of my selfishness. Even worse are my parents. I'm ruining Emily's sole chance at happiness, Mom has been telling any relative who will listen over the phone. She is portraying me as this cold-blooded monster who refuses to assist her dying sister. However, Emily is not dying. She is simply unable to conceive naturally. They're behaving as though Emily's wish to have a biological kid is more significant than my actual risk of dying. This morning, Dad sent me a message that truly went too far. "You've always been a letdown, but this is a new low. This is your way of repaying us for giving you life. By denying your sister the experience of being a mother." I wanted to reply that they didn't really give me life. My grandparents were the ones who covered the cost of the medical treatment that kept me alive, and they almost lost it due to carelessness several times when I was a toddler. Greg is enraged. I dissuaded him from driving to their house and confronting them. Even though I would have loved to watch him reprimand them, I informed him, they're not worth it. Rather, we engaged in a lengthy discussion about our future. Greg reminded me, this isn't just about you anymore. It has to do with our son. He might lose his mother as a result of what they're requesting. Nobody has the authority to force you to take that risk. Of course, he is correct. I feel no remorse for turning Emily down when I see our son. He needs his mom to be well and living. We have made the decision to act decisively. Let's start by blocking all of their numbers, including Emily's, Mom's, Dad's, and even the flying monkeys they called after me. My grandparents are the lone exception, and they have always been accepting and encouraging. Second, we're investigating legal safeguards. Greg fears they may try something desperate because of their antagonistic behavior. Next week, we're meeting with a lawyer to go over our choices. I will always be perplexed by their claim to be family and their utter disregard for my life. However, I'm over my guilt. I will no longer allow them to control me. A mother who would put her life in danger to appease individuals who have never truly shown her love is not worthy of my son. Thank you to everyone who left a remark on my previous post. You made it clear to me that I'm being a responsible mother and defending my family, not being selfish. Standing up to those who ought to have protected you in the first place is sometimes necessary. I'll provide another update if something noteworthy occurs, but hopefully this will be the last one. With my true family, my spouse and son, who genuinely appreciate my existence, I'm prepared to go on. Update 2. I've blocked everyone for 2 weeks now. I assumed that was the last of it, but my mother managed to get in touch with me using a temporary number. Just the two of us, not Greg, need to talk. I consented to meet at a nearby cafe even though every instinct told me not to attend. For obvious reasons, I picked a public spot, and Greg was waiting in his car nearby in case something happened. She began talking about Emily's melancholy and how she's dying of the anguish of not being able to have children as soon as I sat down, in what was obviously a prepared speech. No, how are you? No recognition of their prior actions, just a direct focus on Emily's misery. My mother pushed a business card across the table and said, "The doctors say this is her last chance. According to one fertility expert, you two are a fantastic fit. They are able to keep a careful eye on your cardiac health." She dismissed it as if it were a minor annoyance when I brought up the fact that my own doctors, who have been aware of my medical history for years, have expressly prohibited me from getting pregnant again. Doctors are constantly too cautious. According to Emily's specialist, the risks are controllable. When Mom began discussing family legacy and how Emily should be given more genetic inheritance than I did, the discussion took an even more sinister turn. She did say that, after all, I've heard the same arguments about my being a flawed child my entire life. She replied, "I should have known you'd be difficult about this," as I got up to go. "Emily has always made you envious. This is your opportunity to at last take action for the family." I felt oddly at ease as I walked out of the cafe. I finally saw my mother clearly for the first time, not as a parent who didn't love me enough, but rather as someone who never considered me a person, only a tool to be used for Emily's gain. Greg inquired about how things went on the way home. I informed him of my mother's remarks about family legacy and her rejection of my health concerns. After a period of silence, he said, "You know what? They're not worthy of you? They have never done so." He is correct. They are unworthy of me, my forgiveness, or another opportunity to harm me. I've given my mother one last message. I won't put myself in danger or leave my child an orphan because of Emily's wishes. We will not be talking about it again. Don't get in touch with me again. Tomorrow, I'm going to change my number. Sometimes quitting the game completely is the only way to win. Update 3. My father began sending increasingly threatening messages from various phones a week after the cafe incident involving my mother. I was particularly drawn to the most recent one. "Your mother is devastated. Emily is in pieces. You have given us no other option, even if we didn't want to do this. There are repercussions for actions." My grandmother's voice was tremulous when she called. "I heard your parents conversing with an attorney. They're looking for legal means to compel you to do this. They may use laws pertaining to family obligations and medical rights. Although they made reference to court orders and medical evaluations, I'm not entirely sure what they have planned. Evidently, they have persuaded themselves that they may be able to contest my own doctor's opinion because Emily's fertility specialist claims the risks are tolerable. They're even considering attempting to demonstrate that my reluctance isn't due to valid medical concerns, but rather to illogical family resentment. Additionally, my grandmother disclosed that Emily's 46-year-old husband is genuinely opposed to their plan. He believes that risking someone's life for this is crazy, but Emily and my parents have essentially cut him off from the conversation. That family at least has one sensible member. I called my doctor's office right away and asked them to implement additional security measures to lock down my medical records. I then got in touch with 3 different family law businesses. The first 2 expressed sympathy but stated that they would have to look into this peculiar circumstance. But the third one was just what we needed. When the lawyer heard the whole scenario, she became enraged. "They cannot legally compel you to serve as a surrogate. It would be considered reproductive coercion and would not be tolerated by any court. However, we must take the initiative. She is assisting us with creating cease and desist letters and preparing the necessary papers for a restraining order. Additionally, we are recording every message, phone, and contact attempt. According to the attorney, if we require legal protection in the future, we must establish a distinct pattern of harassment. The majority of our legal expenditures are covered by Greg's company's excellent legal insurance plan. Even if it didn't, I would sell my car if I had to, he stated. Last night, he informed me, your safety is worth everything we have. The most bizarre aspect of it all is that they still act as though they are the victims and that I am the one who is acting irrationally. As if compelling someone to put their life in danger is some sort of admirable sacrifice, my mother reportedly informed my grandma that sometimes love means making difficult choices for the family. I'm exhausted, so exhausted. But I'm no longer scared. Let them play their games and try their legal threats. Truth, the law, and real medical proof are all on my side. Above all, I am supported by individuals who sincerely care about my life and welfare. Update 4. The legal threats began 2 weeks ago, and now my whole extended family is involved in this nightmare. During their recent family get-together, which I was obviously not invited to, my aunt from Texas called yesterday and sobbed about having to see Emily endure yet another unsuccessful IVF effort. The most unsettling aspect. The story has been entirely altered by my parents. My cousins claim that they're telling everyone that I'm just using my heart ailment as an excuse because it has significantly improved. They've even implied that I'm declining because I want to see Emily suffer because I'm envious of her success. The cryptic Facebook postings that my mother's sisters have begun sharing about selfish family members and the value of sacrifice for family were what truly caught me off surprise. Everyone in the family is aware of who they are referring to, even though they aren't specifically addressing me. I've received messages from some distant relatives I haven't seen since I was a child expressing their disappointment with my decisions. My cousin Sarah, 39F, is the one bright spot in all of this. She personally contacted me to express her anger with everyone's actions. She wrote, "I recall how they treated you as a child. They're being crazy. Don't let them guilt you into this." At the next family get-together, she even volunteered to talk about her personal encounters with my parents' partiality. These flying monkeys are unaware that last night Emily's husband spoke with Greg in secret. He fears that because of all this harassment, Emily and my parents will end up in legal hot water. He attempted to reason with them, but they aren't listening to anyone because they are so focused on achieving their goals. I've already made up my mind. I wrote a mass email to my entire extended family last night that had only the medical facts about my heart problem, along with a statement from my cardiologist on the risks of getting pregnant again, without any drama or accusations. I concluded it by saying that my lawyer would handle any further harassment and that I would no longer discuss surrogacy. Then, with the exception of my grandparents and cousin Sarah, I blocked every member of my family. Greg assisted me in creating new social media profiles for close friends only, using a different identity. It's strangely freeing, but it seems like entering witness protection. Yesterday, my youngster questioned me about why we no longer see Grandma and Grandpa. I told him that sometimes we have to avoid individuals who don't respect our limits, even if they are family, even if it breaks my heart. After giving it some consideration, he remarked, "Like when Tommy at school doesn't stop when I say no. Children are more capable of understanding than we realize." I've learned from this whole experience that my true family isn't always the folks with whom I share DNA. It's the people who love me without conditions, who respect my right to life and who cherish my presence above and beyond what I can do to others. Update 5. I sent out a bulk email to the extended family a month ago. The result was different from what I had dreaded, yet it was precisely what you would expect. Genuine peace is something I've never experienced before thanks to my new phone number and secret social media profiles. Through my grandma, I heard what is likely to be my mother's final message to me. You've let this family down for the last time. You put your self-interest ahead of Emily's happiness. You shouldn't anticipate being welcomed back. Oddly, I felt a tremendous sense of comfort instead of pain as I read those words. What I've understood all along, that my sole worth was what I could do for Emily, was now expressed aloud. This morning, my lawyer called to let me know that Emily was contacted by her fertility clinic. They wanted to make it clear that they had never authorized surrogacy agreements involving a person with my medical background. It seems that neither Emily nor my parents had ever brought up my cardiac ailment. This only serves to highlight their lack of concern for my well. The most unexpected result. No more worrying about family get-togethers, dread when my phone calls, or persistent feelings of inadequacy. I'm sleeping better than I have in years. Greg also noticed, saying, "I'm laughing more freely and smiling more." In this brand new, drama-free setting, our youngster is flourishing. We began Sunday board game nights as a new family tradition last weekend. I had a profound realization as I sat there and watched him laugh with Greg. This is how families should feel: secure, affectionate, and welcoming. Sometimes my grandmother comes to visit, but she always makes sure my folks are unaware. Last time, she brought old pictures of me as a baby that I had never seen before. As I looked at them, I saw a contented little girl who had no idea that she would spend decades attempting to win affection that ought to have been given without conditions. I'm finally providing the protection that little child needed from those who never valued her. She deserved better. I want to express my gratitude to everyone on Reddit who helped me along the way. Your remarks made it clearer to me that defending myself was a matter of survival rather than selfishness. You showed me that a true family doesn't require you to sacrifice yourself for them. If you're wondering whether it's wrong to shield oneself from a toxic family, the answer is no. Your limits are legitimate, your health is important, and your life has worth. Walking away from folks who don't love you enough can sometimes be the bravest thing you can do. Since there is really nothing else to say, I will no longer be updating the story. I've closed the chapter on my dysfunctional family. With the family I've chosen, the ones who genuinely want me to live to read them, it's time to concentrate on writing fresh, healthier chapters. But hold on, shortly after I posted this update, two surprising events occurred. First, my lawyer received a legal letter from Emily's fertility clinic. As it turns out, my parents tried to conceal my heart ailment by falsifying my medical records. A report regarding this unlawful effort at medical fraud is already being filed by the clinic. The second was that Emily's husband had had enough. In the family group chat, he revealed how my parents and Emily had conspired to conceal my illness from the doctors. He disclosed that Emily was aware of my near-death experience while I was pregnant, but she had purposefully kept it a secret from everyone. The response from the extended family was prompt. Suddenly, the aunts and cousins who had been disparaging me stopped talking. My Texas aunt apologized over the phone, claiming she was unaware of the effort at medical fraud. Since then, a number of family members have stopped communicating with my parents and Emily, describing their behavior as completely illegal. Last week, Emily's husband filed for divorce because he couldn't stand being married to someone who would commit fraud and endanger her sister's life. My parents' flawless story about their precious child was ultimately shattered by this. Emily and my parents have been banned from all of the medical facilities that are associated with the reproductive clinic. According to my attorney, they might be subject to severe legal repercussions for their effort at medical fraud. Seeing their flawless facade fall apart after their own deeds were exposed feels like poetic justice. Even though I never sought retribution, all I wanted was to be left alone. You are truly set free by the truth. For those who wanted an update on the repercussions, let me say that sometimes people who spend their entire life controlling other people end up controlling themselves. Emily and my parents did this to themselves. I'm simply living my best life with folks who genuinely appreciate it while keeping a safe distance. Reddit, thank you. Your assistance has been amazing along our journey. When I initially wrote about the demand for surrogacy, I was overcome with self-doubt and remorse. Your remarks gave me strength and demonstrated to me that true family is about more than just blood. It's about love and respect. This community demonstrated that strangers can occasionally offer greater support than one's parents. I will always be appreciative of the way you gave me freedom and a voice. Parents pressured me to forgive my brother for his affair with my ex-wife and her pregnancy. Then demanded I support them financially. My wife, Amy, 26F, cheated on me with my brother, Jake, 26M, which is why I, 34M, recently got divorced. My family did choose them over me, and yes, that did happen. But karma had other ideas. To help you see how my entire life culminated in this awful betrayal, let me begin from the beginning. Jake, who was born when I was 8 years old, was always the golden child while I was growing up in suburban Boston. In the eyes of our parents, Robert, 58M, and Sarah, 56F, I seemed to vanish. Although they weren't particularly nasty, I was undoubtedly treated as an afterthought. This reality was pounded home to us during our entire upbringing. I can still clearly recall winning my first science fair in 6th grade. I devoted months to creating a functional model of solar system dynamics, replete with orbital calculations and revolving planets. I received first prize and a special commendation for mathematical precision from the judges. Jake had a t-ball practice. Not even a game, just practice. So my parents didn't attend the ceremony at all. The walls of our living room were covered with Jake's participation ribbons, while my award remained unopened on the mantle for a week before vanishing into the basement. Our entire childhood was shaped by that. Jake's C+ grades were celebrated, but my straight A's were met with distracted nods. My mother first expressed concern that Jake could feel bad about his regular classes as a result of my enrollment in the advanced placement program. Jake received a new automobile for his 16th birthday to help build his confidence, according to Dad, whereas I had to start working part-time at 16 in order to earn money for college and buy my own clothes. Graduating from high school was very difficult. Instead of seeing me get my graduation and give my valedictorian address, my parents spent most of the ceremony photographing Jake playing in the stands when he was just 10 years old. Jake was whining about being bored, so they didn't hear me announce my MIT scholarship. A celebration dinner for Jake's early baseball season was transformed into a party. Because Jake seems a little down about all your achievements, Mom even encouraged me to tone down my presentation of my college intentions. I scarcely noticed that I had been accepted to MIT on a partial scholarship because Jake had recently made the junior baseball team. "That's nice, honey, but did you hear Jake might make a starting pitcher next season?" Mom said. I recall. I came to the realization that nothing I ever did would be sufficient at that point. I served as the practice child, the test subject for Jake, their actual parenting endeavor. With my scholarship, the money I saved from 3 part-time jobs, and the resolve to never look back, I set out for MIT at the age of 18. Jake had a summer league game the day I moved into my dorm, so my parents left early. They didn't even assist me with unpacking. Those were life-changing college years. I was evaluated entirely on my own merits for the first time. Upon discovering my aptitude for software architecture, I immersed myself in computer science and finished with honors. Several IT organizations were interested in my distributed systems optimization undergraduate thesis, and by the time I graduated I had received 5 job offers. A part of me still hoped that things may improve, so I picked a promising company in Boston. In part because it was near home. I was in charge of my own development team within 2 years, and by the 5th year, I was the youngest senior developer in the company's history. My folks were too busy assisting Jake with his 3rd college major change to really understand what I did for a job. 4 years ago at a tiny coffee shop close to my workplace, the real turning point in my life occurred. Amy and I met there. While completing her teaching degree, she was working as a barista. She somehow managed to recall each regular's order as well as a personal characteristic. She acknowledged that she had been writing encouraging notes on my coffee cups for weeks before she eventually consented to go out with me. I hadn't even noticed because I had been so focused on my task. 6 hours were spent on our first date. We discussed everything, including our families, anxieties, and dreams. She seems to genuinely get my family's problems. When I informed her about my early years, she responded, "They're blind. They have no idea what they were missing." I felt like I was being seen for the first time. The following year seemed unreal. We prepared extravagant meals together, spent weekends discovering Boston's hidden bookstores, and went trekking in New Hampshire. She pushed me to go for a big promotion at work, helped me get ready for the interviews, and celebrated my success more than anybody else. She shed joyful tears when I asked her to marry me after 14 months, saying she had been hoping I would. At the time, I believed our wedding was tiny and ideal. When my family arrived, they talked about Jake's new job opportunity in California for the whole of the reception. In order to show everyone a text message from Jake regarding his second interview, Mom actually cut short Amy's father's toast. In hindsight, I should have recognized it as a warning flag, but Amy dismissed it with a laugh, stating that she thought their commitment to Jake was sweet. Our marriage was everything I could have imagined for 3 years. We began discussing starting a family, acquired a lovely condo in Cambridge, and took trips when we could. Amy made our house feel like the cozy, caring home I never had as a child by decorating it with pictures of our travels and planting a little container garden on our balcony. "We were a team," she constantly asserted. She would remark, "Us against the world." Then Jake got in touch last year. After failing to succeed in California due to the startup culture not being his vibe, he returned to Boston. He wrote me a lengthy email in which he expressed his longing for his older brother and his desire to mend our relationship after growing up. He wrote, "Families should stick together." After a week of contemplation, Amy urged me to give him a chance. "People evolve," she stated. "Perhaps they've come to terms with their losses." I decided to go out to supper with Jake against my better judgment. Although awkward, the first meeting showed promise. Jake seems to have grown up and become more self-aware. He stated he wanted to make atonement and acknowledged that he had had it easy as a child. A week later, I introduced him to Amy, and they clicked right away. Too well, as I would learn later. Everything appeared to be ideal at first. A couple of times a week, Jake would stop by for dinner. He seemed genuinely interested in my work, brought wine and entertained us with tales of his exploits in California. He even stood up for me when our parents began showing their customary partiality at Sunday dinners. In fact, I began to think that we might be biological brothers. Subtly, however, things began to change. Jake started unexpectedly visiting our home, sometimes while I was still at work. While she graded papers, Amy stated they were simply hanging out and that it was good to have company. He would remain for supper and use my coffee mug while chatting with my wife and making inside jokes. I chose to overlook the warning signs, which included their sudden silence when I walked into a room, Amy's phone abruptly turning to the side when I sat next to her, their knowing glances at dinner, and their coincidental meetings at the coffee shop or grocery store. The announcement of the pregnancy followed. We were eating dinner at home. Naturally, Jake was present when Amy broke the news. Although I was ecstatic, Jake's response ought to have told me everything. He was not in the least bit surprised. Rather, he smiled with a knowing satisfaction that made my stomach flip. Jake was there all the time after that. He would talk about how active he would be in our child's life, touch Amy's stomach without asking, and make remarks about the baby's future. Despite my efforts to organize a romantic baby moon trip, hubby inadvertently invited himself. He said, "The baby needs both of us," and Amy concurred. I still remember the night I found out. I had been lying awake, mentally reliving months of dubious events. Amy was on the nightstand charging her phone while she slept peacefully next to me. I had never once looked at her phone in our 6 years together. I was a believer in trust and privacy. But I had a need to know something. They had hundreds of communications dating back 6 months. While I was at work, we had secret meetings in hotels. Plans for their future together. Conversations about the infant, their infant. Soon after he returned to my life, they had begun sharing a bed. They had intended to tell me after the baby was born, assuming that I would be too attached to the child to leave, therefore the pregnancy wasn't an accident. I felt my world come crashing down, message by message, as I read every single message till dawn. I was seated in our reading chair with Amy's phone in my hand when she woke up. She was immediately aware of what I had found. She sobbed, "We didn't intend for this to occur. Jake and I simply clicked. He knows me better than you ever could." In fact, she spoke the most overused phrase in the history of affairs. "We were going to tell you, but we didn't want to worry you after I became pregnant." I called my parents that morning in the hopes that they would finally support me. I was astounded by their answer. Mom said, "Jake made a mistake, but he's going to be a father now. You must forgive him and act like the bigger person. Consider the infant. Consider the grandchild that was produced when their younger son was having an affair with the wife of their older son. They were also protecting him. Once more. There are some things that never change." That day, I called a divorce attorney and checked into a hotel. Amy took turns pleading for my pardon and condemning me for deserting our family. At work, Jake attempted to corner me by claiming that we needed to have a man-to-man conversation. I reported him for workplace harassment and had security escort him out. Going through a divorce was a nightmare. Amy and Jake claimed their affair started because of my emotional unavailability, portraying me as domineering and emotionally abusive. According to my parents' testimony, I had always been difficult, and had lifelong jealousy of Jake. Mom even blamed the mediator for the entire problem, saying that I should have been more considerate of Jake's demands. After that, I stopped negotiating. After we went to court, Amy managed to get a respectable settlement. It seems that in Massachusetts, having an affair with your husband's brother does not waive alimony. Small successes though, like preserving the condo and the majority of my pay. I am currently 34 years old, divorced and totally estranged from my family. I've changed my email, blacklisted their numbers, and told building security to never let them in. On certain days I find myself questioning whether there is any way I could have avoided this. If I'd been a better spouse, brother or son. However, I later realized that I wasn't the one who deceived everyone. Turning family against family was not something I did. It's said that everyone eventually experiences karma. I'm not sure if that's accurate, but I do know that I'm sick of being the family's scapegoat. Having to be understanding when everyone else gets away with ruining lives is something I'm tired of. I've lived my entire life as the one who is passed over, the second best option, and the afterthought. No more. However, just when I believed that things couldn't get much worse, they were about to get even more bizarre. Update 1. I assumed my family would finally leave me alone when I stopped communicating with them after the divorce. About a month has passed since everything happened, and I've been making an effort to concentrate on getting better and moving on. However, it seems that they had different ideas. When our office receptionist messaged me yesterday morning while I was in the middle of an important meeting with my development team, she said that my mother, Sarah, was in the lobby and insisted on seeing me. She reportedly spent more than an hour there, telling everyone she just needed to talk to her son. Since my team had seen Jake's prior incident at work, they could tell how uneasy I was. After ignoring her and carrying on with my job, my phone began to ring with calls from unidentified numbers. It seems that my mother had enlisted a number of family members to attempt to contact me. I thought it might be work-related when I finally answered one phone, but it was my Aunt Linda, 54F, with whom I hadn't spoken in years. Not even bothering to say hello, she began, "Your brother and Amy are really struggling. Jake still hasn't found a job, and the settlement money is running low. Well, no one wants to hire him after that. Jake's reputation appears to have been ruined by his affair with Amy, which somehow made its way into his professional network. After doing background checks, a number of prospective employers withdrew their offers. I couldn't help but notice the irony. For once, his actions had tangible repercussions. This is where it becomes ridiculous though. In addition to purchasing groceries and paying their rent, my parents have also been paying for Amy's prenatal medical expenses. My father's retirement funds are being depleted and they are now in a panic as they run out of money themselves. Their remedy? They want me to provide financial assistance for the woman who deceived me and the brother who ruined my marriage. My mother didn't just show up at my office, she had a plan. She chose to ambush me at work since she knew I wouldn't return their calls. After threatening to stay until closing time, she launched into a prepared speech on forgiveness and family responsibilities when I eventually made my way down to the lobby to handle the problem. She easily forgot that I had to pay for my own college education when she remarked, "Your father and I have always provided for both our sons. It's time for you to take charge and support your brother during this difficult time." What I was hearing was unbelievable. A rough patch. My wife became pregnant after he had an affair with her, and he attempted to claim the child as his own. That is a purposeful set of decisions, not a tough stretch. She foolishly responded, "Well, if you had paid more attention to Amy's needs." Before I phoned security, I interrupted her and urged her to go. I loudly announced in the lobby that I was leaving my own brother and his unborn child behind before she left. Despite their support, a number of my co-workers found this to be humiliating. Jake sent me an email later that evening. In order to get around my blocks, he had made a new account. Half-hearted apologies and barely disguised requests for financial assistance were mixed together in the email. He wrote about the difficulties Amy was having with her pregnancy, something I was unaware of, how they were unable to pay for appropriate medical treatment and how the stress was impacting my future nephew or niece. The attachment, a sonogram image, was what truly drew my attention, even though the manipulation techniques were clear. They were attacking me emotionally with their unborn child, the result of their affair. In an attempt to take a new tack, my father arrived at my apartment complex the following day and pretended to be there only to talk. I declined to let him in when the front desk called. Then for 2 hours, he stood in the lobby telling everyone who would listen how his successful son was causing his brother's family to suffer. Since then, I've had to inform the management of my building of the circumstances and ask them to bar any of my family members from entering. I don't see any other choice, even though it's awkward to publicly discuss my private issues in this way. Additionally, the harassment has spread to social media. On Facebook, Amy has been making vague accusations against me, claiming that she was abandoned throughout her pregnancy by her emotionally unavailable husband. Adding his own remarks about how some people need to step up and take responsibility, Jake has been reposting these posts. He seems to be unaware of the irony of discussing responsibility while pleading for freebies. I find it infuriating how they have twisted this story. They portray me as the bad guy since I didn't provide for the folks who deceived me. They seem to believe that I have a duty to save them from their own mess, simply because I'm succeeding professionally. I've started keeping a record of everything, including emails, problems at work, and posts on social media. According to my lawyer, if they try anything legal, we could need it. She is especially worried that they would attempt to use the legal system to obtain more support. The worst thing? I've received messages from certain family friends and distant relatives encouraging me to put family first and be the bigger person. They don't seem to realize that Jake and Amy ruined my last remnant of a family. Even though I'm steadfast in my resolve to not assist them, the persistent harassment is wearing me down. To cope with all of this, I've been seeing a therapist, and I'm thinking of searching for a new job in a different place. Although I don't like the idea of fleeing, I'm at a loss on what to do to find serenity. My own family has descended to a level I never imagined, but here we are. They are not merely pleading for assistance, they are attempting to intimidate and coerce me into giving money to the same individuals who ruined my life. I get a feeling that this isn't over yet. Desperate people do desperate things, and they're growing desperate. Update 2. Suddenly, my former partner's attorney sent me a notice. Jake and Amy were trying to sue me for further support, citing increased medical needs and changed circumstances. My lawyer, who had been recording all of their harassment incidents, was enraged but ready. Last week was the scheduled court date. It was unreal to enter that courtroom. Amy was dressed to highlight her obvious pregnancy. Our parents sat directly behind them, looking smugly arrogant, while Jake sat behind her in our father's old suit. First up was their lawyer, who told a story that almost made me chuckle. They claimed that because they had undervalued the emotional toll of the divorce, the initial payment was insufficient. They said that my pattern of workplace harassment had prevented Jake from finding a job and even implied that the stress caused by my vindictive behavior was putting Amy's pregnancy in jeopardy because it allegedly required specialized care because of high-risk issues. The way my lawyer responded was heartbreaking. She started by playing surveillance tape from my office building, which included my mother's theatrical displays, Jake's violent conduct, and Amy's attempts to enter through the rear door. She then presented social media evidence, including a detailed chronology of their campaign of online abuse. Their financial records were the true surprise. Jake had rejected multiple jobs as being beneath him, not because he was having trouble finding employment as a result of my pestering. For the court's pity, Amy had turned down a full-time teaching job in order to keep her jobless, pregnant woman status. Amy's prenatal records, which revealed a perfectly healthy pregnancy with typical expenses, were the most incriminating of all. They had been playing pawn with their unborn child. The judge was clearly upset. The judge interrupted their attorney when he attempted to explain that emotional discomfort warranted more help. Your client seemed to have committed perjury, counselor. Do you want to keep going in this direction? Their lawyer returned with a somber expression after a short break. Jake was pale, Amy was crying, and their united front had fallen apart. I was pleasantly surprised by the judge's decision. In addition to rejecting their motion, he also lowered my alimony payments by 60%. Parties who misuse the legal system are not viewed favorably by this court, he said. Mr. Smith seems to be the victim of a well-planned scheme to exploit him financially and emotionally. The fallout happened quickly. Amy decided she could work after Jake unexpectedly landed a job in retail. In their final message, my parents accused me of destroying Jake's last chance and assured me that they would never forgive me for abandoning my family. Citing irreconcilable differences regarding truthfulness, their attorney resigned from their representation. My organization increased security and barred them from the property. I learned that my parents had taken out a second mortgage to pay for legal bills, and that Jake and Amy were arguing over money all the time via common acquaintances. Finally, I feel like I can breathe. I can rebuild my savings thanks to the lower expenses, and I'm thinking about accepting a job offer in Seattle. Letting someone suffer the repercussions of their actions is sometimes the finest form of retaliation. However, I have a feeling that this story is far from over. Update 3. I want to start by thanking this community. I have remained strong during this entire fiasco thanks to your support and remarks. Here is what may be my story's last update. Aunt Linda, the sister of my father, unexpectedly contacted me a few weeks after the court triumph. I was interested enough to listen to her because she has never been involved in family conflict. A huge error. Trying to seem worried, she began, "Your father isn't getting any younger. His health is suffering as a result of all this stress." She continued by talking about how my parents would lose their retirement funds, how they had to refinance their home to pay for Jake and Amy's expenditures, and how families should stick together no matter what. She changed strategies when I didn't react with pity right away. Did you realize that every night your mother sobs herself to sleep? Even though they may have acted inappropriately against you as a child, they are still your parents. Jake remains your brother despite everything that has transpired. At last, I cut her off. What took place? Are you referring to the months he spent having sex with my wife, getting her pregnant and then attempting to claim the child as his own? That's what took place? I was astounded by her response. Well, perhaps you could have been more involved in your marriage. In fact, she attempted to place the blame for their affair on me, claiming that my jealousy of Jake as a child had produced a toxic environment that pushed them together. It was so ridiculous I laughed, really laughed. Another member of the family was attempting to deceive me into taking accountability for Jake and Amy's behavior. What's different this time? It didn't move me at all. Linda, I asked, why don't you assist them if you're so worried about their financial status? Your husband's legal practice is doing well, and you possess 3 rental properties. Why am I the only one who is supposed to stand by them? That was different, she sputtered, adding that I had a special obligation as Jake's brother. She said she didn't want to take sides when I asked her why she hadn't stepped in during all of this. But now you're picking sides, I said. You decided to come to me and demand that I pay for their consequences rather than admit the harm they caused. She then revealed what she believed to be her secret weapon. Your father is thinking of retiring early because of stress. The house may need to be sold. Is seeing your folks lose everything because you're too proud to assist what you want? I said, no, Linda. They're losing everything as a result of their decision to condone Jake's actions once more. They, like Jake and Amy, are paying the price for their own decisions. And what do you know? I'm not responsible for fixing that. When I'm older and alone. Family is all we have in the end, she emphasized, threatening that I will regret this. No, I replied. Self-respect is all we have in the end, and I'm finally choosing to keep mine. In addition to blocking her number, I hung up. Her call, however, had the unanticipated benefit of providing me with clarity. I felt truly free for the first time from the obligation and guilt that had plagued me since I was a young child. I accepted the Seattle job offer later that day. The change of location feels appropriate, and the firm is providing a substantial promotion. I'm starting over and selling the condo. Yesterday, my coworkers threw me a farewell party. I learned what true support looks like from these individuals, who supported me during the darkest months of my life. With the straightforward statement, your worth isn't determined by those who couldn't see it, my closest colleague gave me a card that was signed by everyone. I've discovered that family is about mutual support, respect and trust rather than blood. The friends who supported me, the co-workers who shielded me, and ultimately, myself, proved to be my true family. I'm done, to my parents, Jake, Amy, and now Linda. Your decisions brought you to this point, and you are responsible for the results. I'm not available to be your ATM or your scapegoat anymore. For my part, I'm excited for my new life in Seattle. I'm thrilled about the initiatives that await me at my company's renowned West Coast location. More significantly, I can't wait to create a life in which I'm respected for who I am rather than compared to someone else's golden child. Writing my last post from an empty condo, surrounded by stacked boxes, seems oddly appropriate. I start driving west tomorrow. I'll be looking back on my past life, with all of its suffering and familial strife. Yes, their baby was born last week, in case you were wondering. No, I haven't contacted anyone or seen any pictures. I've closed that chapter of my life. Again, I want to thank Reddit for supporting me over this trip. When I was having self-doubt, your encouragement and counsel kept me going. Anyone going through a similar situation should know that their value transcends their family's treatment of them. Walking away is sometimes the most self-loving thing you can do. It's time to go. Cheers to fresh starts. Am I the asshole for torpedoing a dude's entire career because he was a bully at work? Original post. So to preface, I know I'm something of a Nepo baby, but it is what it is. My mom is incredibly successful in a very niche but very lucrative field of business. This allowed my dad to be a SAHD and for me and my siblings to get a good education. When I graduated from college, I decided to go into the same field as my mom. While I love her and our relationship is good, I very much did not want to only be viewed as her kid, or receive special treatment due to how well regarded she is, so I use my dad's surname, and generally keep who my mom is to myself. I also avoided coming to work for her. In my field and country, it's generally accepted that people are hired for a trial period, at the end of which either the employee or employer can cut ties with no fines or compensation required. So anyway, I went to work at one company. Again, I'll remind you, very niche market, very few employment opportunities. I went in for my trial period and everyone seemed pretty happy with me. I put out some fires and one superior describes me as a workhorse, because I'm first to the office, last out the door. It goes pretty well. Except for one colleague in my team. This dude is a huge jerk. I'm a bit of a people pleaser and try to be on good terms with everyone, but jerk will have none of it. Dude is incredibly rude. He keeps being very confrontational. Like if a colleague, not just me, was getting any sort of acknowledgement, jerk would belittle them and their accomplishment. If someone was saying they had a rough time with something, jerk would pop up going, "Oh yeah, I did that a while back, it was super easy." Whenever someone tried talking about future plans with me, jerk would go, "Oh yeah, we'll see about that." He also apparently says some very unkind things about my appearance and masculinity, but those at least he had the decency to say behind my back, I suppose, and I only learned about them later. Like dude was incredibly mean, for apparently no reason except trying to make himself look better by making everyone else look worse. This one thing wasn't true to me specifically because I'm male, but his meanness seemed to apply especially to women. A few comments were about how working in this field isn't for moms and they should be raising kids or whatever, and some other very bad stuff. But management seemed pretty content keeping him around because apparently he was a pretty good worker and they liked that he was ambitious. Fine. My trial period ends. I am offered a permanent position, but decide this is not the place for me, as I don't love being anybody's workhorse, and have very little interest in sticking around in Jerk's vicinity. I respectfully inform them I will not be sticking around and go find work elsewhere. On my last day I come to say goodbye. Management says they're sorry to see me go. Colleagues wish me well and say they're gonna miss me. Jerk goes, "Ha, told you OP wasn't gonna stick around. Good riddance. Maybe this field isn't for you either." Very loudly. I leave. I'm not very confrontational and I don't have to deal with him anymore anyway, so I just go. Some time goes by and I'm now employed elsewhere. I'm happy and doing well. I love my work and my colleagues. I've been promoted, and I don't really think about Jerk anymore, except, apparently there's a relative influx of applicants from Jerk's company. Relative because again, very niche market. Whatever. My boss knows I did a trial period over there, so whenever an applicant comes up, he asks me about my experience with them. There are very few people I dislike, so when asked, I usually give my honest opinion, which is usually very positive. But guess whose application we suddenly receive? It's Jerk. My boss asks for my opinion, and I say, look, I have personal feelings about this person, and I can't be objective. Boss, knowing just how positive I usually am about basically everyone, asks me what's up, and eventually I tell him. I tell him everything. Jerk, obviously, doesn't get hired. I assume that's the end of that. Few days later we had a family dinner. My mom goes, wait, you had a trial period at that company, right? Do you know Jerk? Well, my mom knew there was a person I really didn't get along with at that company and the shitty things they did. I tell her it was him. Obviously, she ain't gonna hire him either, especially given his views on women. So my company ends up hiring one of Jerk's company's former workers. Me and her are on great terms and this is how I discovered what happened there. Jerk got promoted and that made a bunch of people want to leave. This caused management to look into why strong applicants were leaving after their trial period was over. Turned out it was Jerk. Someone had a talk with him and from what I gather he was not receptive to criticism. He was let go. This is when he applied to the company I work for and to my mom's. From what I understand he no longer works in our field. There are, as I mentioned, not many employers around, but unfortunately I have no idea what he does. We'll update if I find out. Update. So it's been a minute since my original post. Things kinda blew up and that caused me to want to give a small update and clear some stuff up. So first, let me stress that my field is very niche, with few employment opportunities. It is also, as some of you suggested, niche. Okay, seriously now. As some of you actually guessed, the field is medicine in a small county. This means that there aren't many spots on the residency program, but also a pretty constant influx of students and interns. The field is pretty lucrative. Shitty hours, yes, but great money and a lot of prestige. Some asked about an exit interview at the end of the trial. Had one of those. Said I didn't really vibe with the culture and certain aspects of the way they did things. Didn't name Jerk. As a young, relatively speaking, specialist in my field in a not very large department, I get to weigh in on potential colleagues, so if I say someone sucks, that bears some weight. And if a department starts having issues attracting the best candidates because its chief resident is a jerk, that's gonna be an issue. So with that out of the way, let's get to the update. A lot of you were very curious as to what had actually happened to him. So I reached out to some friends. He's still a doctor, obviously, but he just went into another specialty, which given how long he worked to become chief resident is telling. He's probably okay. The reason for the update. It turns out I know his wife. I like his wife. She was a year ahead of me in med school. Got curious so I texted her. Turns out she's not actually his wife anymore, she's his ex. They got divorced. Had coffee with her, still a lovely woman. She's not on Reddit but apparently this thing got on out at some point and reached her. Well, I told her about this and she couldn't believe it was me. Except she could, because she suspected it was me because I apparently sound like a twat when I express myself in writing, which she remembers from my days at the student council equivalent and my many emails. So? Okay. Still, I had a good time. We're getting coffee again on Sunday. Anyway, I didn't have anything to do with his firing, but after he was let go, presumably quite unamicably, he decided to move abroad after failing to get into another department here. This didn't come to fruition but it did cause a rift in their marriage, which then led to divorce. So, maybe I kinda torpedoed his marriage too. And yeah, that's about it for the update. We'll let you know if I get beaten up in a parking lot though, as some of you suggested I might. Am I the asshole for getting upset and crying when my boyfriend let his best friend's wife alter the dish I prepared for dinner? Original post, throwaway account, my boyfriend, 28M, and I, 22F, met at work 2 years ago. Technically I was working part-time during undergrad and he was a customer, but after a couple of months, we started going out. I really love this man and nothing has happened on this scale before, so I'm very confused about it. My BF has a very tight group of friends. I am well acquainted with them, and their girlfriends. One of them, Dave, is married to Ellie. Fake names. Ellie is an excellent cook and often hosts dinners, and everyone brings a dessert to those dinners. I am the youngest in the group, so most times they brush off my requests for contributing or bringing in a dessert. However, the last time I asked Dave and Ellie if they wanted anything extra like wine or some sweet dish for dinner, they said I could bring one of those sweet dishes I make for my boyfriend. I'm Indian. And even though I can't cook as well as my mom, and I'm in a different country for studies, I called my mom up and had her teach me properly how to make a specific Bengali sweet which is my favorite. I had my friends taste it and they said it was great. My boyfriend ate some and said it was excellent. Except, last night, I greeted Ellie and kept the dish in the kitchen. When the food was brought out and my boyfriend told everyone I made it, I saw that someone had added cinnamon powder to the sweet. You never have the sweet with cinnamon powder. The dessert tasted like cinnamon and I felt horrible. Though everyone said thank you and it was good, I think my face gave it away, and my boyfriend took me aside and said that Ellie had told him that my sweet looked too white, and thought some cinnamon might bring some color into it. I don't know, I just felt awful and I started to tear up. My boyfriend then defended Ellie and said that his friends already think I'm a child and not make a big deal of this and we will talk about it. I told him Ellie asked him first, couldn't he have told her not to add cinnamon to the sweet? He told me he didn't think it was a big deal and asked me to drop the topic on the way home. I didn't text him goodnight and this morning he said he was sorry and said my crying made him feel like an awful person. I don't know, now I think I overreacted. AITA, some of OOP's comments. To a now deleted comment, thank you. BDW, it was Rosagola. I even had my mom ask our local sweet shop what quantity they used for the sizes of Rosagola. I had managed the sweet to taste a lot like the sweet shop, so that's why I was so upset. If it tasted bad I wouldn't have cried. Commenter, actually you should have asked right at the table why there is cinnamon added to your dessert. Not in a shout complain way to make a scene but to make it clear your dessert was spoiled and your contribution was pretty much sabotaged. Don't cover other people if.ck-ups, it's on them, not you. OP. Downvoted. I didn't want to embarrass Ellie or my BF. Plus I didn't know who added the cinnamon during dinner, and I was too upset to even talk. Commenter. So your boyfriend doesn't defend you and apparently all his friends think you're a child. Which he also doesn't defend you against. He's also got 6 years on you, dude's nearing 30. Does your boyfriend often treat you like a child? Does your boyfriend usually defend his friends when they do some fuck shit like this? Does your boyfriend defend you at all? He should feel like an awful person. He is an awful boyfriend. I usually just hang around my boyfriend's friends during these dinners. I admit I feel a little left out because they all have been friends for so long, and I'm from a different culture, but they have never said any outright offensive thing to me. My boyfriend doesn't treat me like a child. He mentioned before that due to my age his friends see me like a much younger sister. So I guess that's why he said it. I don't know, I'm kind of rethinking his words. Commenter, you should really your aunt have a round with your BF in Bengal. We don't have GFs or housewives, we have queens of the house. He needs to understand the Bengali household hierarchy. OOP, there is no way am I going to tell this to my ma. She already has reservations about my BF due to the age gap and the fact that he is not Bengali. But thank you, your comment cracked me up. A lighter comment. I know. I was horrified. And I had to eat it and act like nothing happened, at the dinner table, to not cause a scene. Traumatized by cinnamon rosagola was not on my bingo card this year. Top comment, Vegetable Business 897, BF saying everyone thinks you're a child, and him saying, we'll talk about this later, is him telling you he thinks you're a child. Girl, tell him you're tired of hanging out with judgmental old farts and you're going to go find people younger and cooler to be with. Please don't think this guy hung the moon. Mini update, same post. Update, Ellie saw this post. My boyfriend texted me to see if it was me. I said yes. He said we needed to talk. For safety purposes, my best friend will be here. I don't know, I never expected my post to blow up. Update post. He said he needed space from the relationship. I think with the way this post blew up and what happened because of a post, I should clear up some things. I never asked if I should leave my boyfriend for this. I asked if this was an overreaction. My crying. But having thousands of people tell me this was racially charged, Ellie wanted power, my BF is shitty, etc. My brain went haywire. BF called yesterday and when I got there, his house, with my best friend, Dave and Ellie were there. Ellie was crying and Dave looked really pissed at me. My BF told me to sit down and Dave started with how I could make a post that most of the people in the dinner party would recognize and know, and could shame Ellie and my BF. My BF was silent and wouldn't even look at me, and was only shaking his head. It felt like I was a kid, being scolded by my parents with my elder sibling disappointed in my actions. That is what I felt and it looked. I admit, it was very spineless of me, but Dave went on for like a minute and I was just looking at my BF waiting for him to defend me. I asked Ellie, why would she alter my dish, after telling me to bring an Indian dish? She said she thought Indian food would be brown. This woman has more Indian friends than me, and she thinks Indian food is brown. She grew up in the UK, FFs. And I felt so defeated. The comments, my friends, and people around me telling me his friends came first to him, not me. He said he didn't think the sweet was a big deal. I told him I would never let my friend alter something he spent 3 days learning, getting people to taste it and got his mom involved in. He saw I put a lot of effort into it, so why let her alter it? Why couldn't he ask me? Ellie started to cry and say that she wasn't being racist and she wouldn't know that I put effort into it and now she couldn't host dinners again. I said I used fake names, so why does it matter, unless she and Dave went around telling people? BF told me he didn't expect this from me. My best friend piped up that he expected that my BF would have a effing spine, so I guess they were both disappointed. My, BF told me, in front of Dave and Ellie that he needs some space. I told him to get lost. I don't know what my best friend said to him after that, considering I left my BF's flat. I kind of tripped in the metro station. So now I'm crying on my best friend's couch with an ice pack while his BF keeps giving me peach schnapps and my relationship has toppled over. I wouldn't have stormed out, had he looked at me once. He just looked 100% on Dave and Ellie's side, and acted like I was the one with the problem when she caused me hurt. If his friends come first when they cause me hurt, where would I have been, if I decided to marry this man? My friends are good to me and are acting like I'm some fragile glass. I even heard my best friend and his brother whispering loudly from the kitchen and his elder brother wanting to threaten him via Insta DMs. I hate that this has come to this, considering I have always been the mom friend to my friend group. I'm drunk while writing this, so have some grace in the comments. Also, if you'll be an incel like those people in my DMs, telling me I'll never keep a man if I'm this dramatic, please go away. I just thought I needed to update. That's it. Thanks guys. Edit, guys. This is the first time I've faced what y'all have been calling racism. TBH, I didn't see Ellie putting cinnamon into my rosagola as racism. I was just hurt that my days of hard work were ruined, that's it. I understand I need to work on my self-esteem and not let people walk over me. My best friend's elder brother, he's a doctor and is super pissed at my ex-RN, because he didn't know what happened, booked an appointment with a therapist he knows, as he thinks I need mental help to not normalize aggressive behavior. I'm sorry for ranting on Reddit but I guess that's where I am. Both my best friend and I will be going, he had been there for some time before, and the situation is tense at home because Dada, Bestie's brother, didn't know what was happening and tore my friends a new one for not protesting when Dave said shit to me. I still haven't told him it was over a Reddit post and that I'm writing here. I feel awful and I don't know how to tell my mom she was right. I wish I never went out with him. One of my ex's friends, from the dinner party, asked me if I really left my ex over a dessert, so I guess that's what he told people. It hurts, I know it shouldn't but it hurts. I think it is partially my fault, I shouldn't have let myself be treated like this. There were signs and I ignored them. And now I think I'll never have another relationship because it feels like a horrible, anxious feeling. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, the older brother, who is a doctor and is taking the time to make sure that your mental health is okay, sounds like he cares more about you than Dave or anyone at the dinner party. OOP, he does, never doubted that. He is also very mad at me for drinking too much and at his brother for hiding the fact that my ex was an asswipe. I actually am grateful to him and my best friend for being a very strong support system. Commenter, completely unrelated thing BTW, brown rosagolas exist in India too. They're not as sweet as the white kind, so I prefer the white ones. 3. OOP, I was thinking of making rosagolas. They are brown and tastier, in my opinion. I think maybe if I had made them, this whole mess wouldn't have happened. Commenter, I'm really curious what this dessert is that takes 3 days to make, drop a link to a recipe. OOP, it does not take 3 days to make. I practiced 3. 4 times, and because I'm not a professional sweet maker, it took me almost 6 hours all 3 days to properly make the kanna, or the correct amount of cardamom to put into the milk for a little cardamom taste. It takes a lot of time, and you can find a lot of YouTube videos on rosagolas. Commenter, I say date Dada or the best friend. Dada knows how to treat a woman, and he seemed royally pissed at what happened to her. Going as far as to get her therapy. I've had best friends and their family as mine before, and I know they've never gone that far to help me. Is it just me, or is it a little more than family, to get so angry on her behalf and try to help her mental health? OOP. My best friend is gay and is very much in love with his BF. That's the reason he was in therapy for some time. He has faced homophobia in our home country and needed counseling. And that's why his brother is overprotective of both of us. Where OOP is from, for those curious. I'm from West Bengal, but not Kolkata, though I have spent a couple of years of my childhood there. To a different commenter, I am from a district that shares a border with Bangladesh, and both sets of my grandparents were from there. New update post. I'm again grateful for the barrage of supportive messages and chiding I've received from the internet after the cinnamon fiasco and my post causing a breakup. I am updating because I felt like I should just update about recent events, and honestly, after just more than 2 weeks I have started to feel good about myself, even though I feel like shit whenever I remember my ex. I really hope I can put this whole thing to rest and I don't have to update again, for my sanity. Firstly, my ex called a few times last week. I had blocked him earlier, literally like 2 days after breaking up, and whenever he called my friends they wouldn't pick up either. I wanted to handle this matter gracefully. And unlike what some people commented, no, I did not want my issues all over the internet and did not understand what was happening. I just wanted some advice on how to deal with my emotions and didn't want my friends to be mad at my then BF. Thankfully, the trash took itself out. I still don't know if Ellie was racially motivated or if she just hated me. I don't even care now. I don't want a man who makes his friends scold me and humiliate me. I know I deserve to be at least somebody's first choice. Ex came to my best friend's flat. I don't live there, and from what I heard from my bestie's boyfriend, he said he was very sorry and he now felt like I didn't deserve to be treated like that. He had thought, when he broke up with me, that I was overreacting and it was just a small thing I made a big deal out of. But then a few of his friends explained to Ellie that it definitely was a horrible thing to do and told my ex he was a shit BF. Huh. Who knew he had nice friends too? Ex didn't say anything more after that. He was just sorry and he said he doesn't want more hurt between us. I have decided to not contact him. I'm just done. A lecture from my mother on dating idiot men and crying every night for over a week has made me lethargic, and on top, I am fending off Dada, Bestie's elder brothers, insisting that I move in with them for some time because I'm not eating well. My dad said it's okay if I do. My family trusts my bestie and his family a lot. Needless to say, my work and studies are suffering. I haven't heard from Ellie or Dave and I don't intend to. The person who asked me if I left my ex over a desert, I told her what happened and she was appalled. I don't know what she told my ex, for him to apologize. Honestly, I'm so done with that group shit. I went to one therapy session and I didn't feel good. I know I have to keep going for it to actually help me, but I can't help feeling so down. I have never been so emotionally low in my life and I am officially not dating for the foreseeable future. I am planning a trip with friends after my final semester of my master's and I really hope I don't bring the mood down, for my friends who have been so supportive and have always made me feel I have family, even though I'm away from home. I don't know what I would have done without having my best friend and his boyfriend, who keep telling me to drink the pain away, and Dada keeps on talking about the negative effects of becoming an alcoholic. Overall, I'm closing this chapter, and I don't think I'll need to update again. I'm not ever talking again to Dave and Ellie or my ex, so I don't expect any more drama. I just want to settle down to work and graduate properly. OOP clarifies. Oh my god. I have not started drinking, guys. I rarely drink and just cry. The alcohol thing was a joke. 2 years after a life-changing surgery at 14, I prepared for death, but the story didn't end there. Original post, I, 14M, have a bone disease known as multiple hereditary exostosis, MHE. It causes benign bone tumors to grow everywhere on my body. Although they aren't cancerous, they are very painful when they are near a nerve. A lot of these tumors have grown in my knees, fingers and ribs. You can probably guess there are a lot of nerves and muscles there that can be pinched and pierced. It hurts quite a lot. I am constantly at level 5 pain, scale of 1-10. I can only walk for up to 2 minutes, I can't write with a pen. If I couldn't type, this post wouldn't exist, lol, and I'm basically in agony. We have decided I will go for surgery to saw off some of the most painful tumors in my knee. Hopefully this will restore my ability to walk. The doctors have also decided we should remove 2 of my ribs, which have cracked due to the tumors. They'll be replaced with metal, I think. There is a 20% chance of death with all these very complicated procedures, and of course a chance this surgery doesn't change anything, or even makes it worse. Rolling a less than 6-sided dice to determine if I live or die. But to be honest, I don't really care what happens in this surgery. If it works, great, I can walk again. If it fails and my condition stays the same, deteriorates, I've adapted to this disease enough. I can probably handle a few turns for the worst. And if I die, well, I suppose then there is no more pain. My friends say it is wrong for me to feel okay about dying. I'm not suicidal, I wouldn't kill myself if I had the chance. But I don't exactly care if I die at this point. It's in fate's hands at this point. Comment anything. In 7 hours, I'll be on the operating table that'll determine my destiny. Some of OOP's comments. Editor's note, most comments were encouraging OOP and wishing him the best, with OOP thanking them. I included a few others to give a general vibe of the other comments. Commenter, perhaps your friends are saying it's wrong because they think they're trying to be strong for you when you're suffering, trying to give you their will to keep going, but don't know how to express themselves in a gentler way. I assume they're young, like you, and it's unlikely they've had to come to terms with anything approaching what you've been through. They lack the maturity that's been forced on you, but they care about you. OOP, I think you're right about my friends. Thank you for putting it into perspective. I hope I'm using that phrase right, lol. Thank you, and I'll take care. You too, internet stranger. Commenter, I'm sorry you're experiencing this, especially so young. That's not at all fair. I wish you a speedy recovery and that you can have a normal life again. There's also nothing wrong with making peace with the myriad of possibilities that could happen. With only a 20% chance of death though, I'd say the odds are in your favor. Good luck with your surgery, OP. OP, thank you for all the kind words and wishes. I know it isn't fair, but life ain't fair for anyone. Yes, there are so many things that could go right or wrong in this, so I might as well be ready for anything. Even though it's only 20%, well, you should see my luck at Monopoly and realize I am probably screwed, lol. Commenter. Hi, I am an orthopedic surgeon in Western PA. I am sorry to hear about your situation, however your odds of dying are far less than 20%. Less than 1% actually, unless there is something you're not telling us? 2 ribs and even a full knee replacement is very safe. Good luck to you, P. Well, if my chance of death is less, then great. But my docs are saying the odds are high due to blood loss and other factors. I can't really say what other factors are in play, as my mum and surgeons handle most of my medical stuff, lol. I'm just here to rant before the surgery. Wish I could tell you more, but I legitimately am unsure about it. Commenter. So I'm a biomedical engineer, and we're often the ones who aid in the design for procedures like you're going through. A big thing no one mentions about these things is that the averages are based on everyone who has had this done. The elderly, the morbidly obese, the immunocompromised, the addicted. Everyone. If you're a 14-year-old, and believe me, being young has a lot to do with how you recover and how much damage you can take, like a monumental amount, then it's entirely possible that you've got significantly better odds than 20%. And your ability to bounce back from this might even surprise you. I can't tell you that it'll all be okay, but I can tell you where I'd put my money. Good luck. Oop. Ty for showing me the odds just might be better than expected. Still, best to prepare for everything. Commenter, a group of bunnies is sometimes called a fluffle. You said comment anything. OP, sometimes. Are there occasions where they aren't called a fluffle? Commenter, can you ask them to keep some of the bone they remove? That would be a wild souvenir to put on your shelf. Also goes without saying, I hope you don't die, but if you do and you want someone to haunt, I'm down. Oopie, a piece of rib on the wall. Sounds like a very good artifact. Also, I'll be sure to jump scare you at 3 a.m. if I become a ghost, lol. Commenter, hell yeah man, I'll keep a light on for you so you can find your way here. You can pass on info from the other side and I can spread your messages to the masses. We can eventually take our show on the road, but will no doubt split due to creative differences, those of course being I make all the money and you don't because, you know, ghosts can't use human currency. But if there is ghost currency, you will be golden. OP, we will start a human ghost pyramid scheme and it will be the most profitable business. We will surpass Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk with all the great profits. Commenter, my dad had a 20% chance in knee replacement surgery, the complications, and died days later. We had the discussion. I told him to go to the light if he saw it, and if he felt he wanted to stay, he could, and that I would be okay. Days later, he died of a blood clot. I'm sorry at your young age, you're galvanized by such a challenge. I also see your alacrity. Consciousness is everything. Eyes open, my friend. My heart breaks for you and hopes for you. OP, thank you. My uncle also tells me to go to the light if it's seen. Let's see what fate has in store. Commenter, anything you want people to do to honor you? OOP, to honor me, just find a moment to be happy. Hang out with a good friend, play a cool video game, or just sit at home watching Netflix. Be happy, and I'm happy. Edit 1, same post. About 7 hours later. Edit, soon about to enter the operating room. Well, this is it, let's see our fate. Edit 2, same post. 16 hours from OG post. Edit 2, I'm alive, let's go. Recovery pain's a bitch, but otherwise, I'm fine. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, wish you all the best. Greetings from Switzerland. OOP, a Thai and an I'm alive. I am from Singapore. Commenter, I'm so glad you made it. How was the feeling heading up to going under? Any regrets and other thoughts? If you don't feel like sharing, I totally understand. OOP. I was pretty calm when I went into the operating room. As said in the post, I had come to terms with all the possibilities. Also, I got laughing gas for a while before I fell asleep. Very nice feeling, lol. I didn't really have any regrets. I also didn't think much, lol. I do remember humming Sabatons, To Hell and Back when I was going under the Lameo. Update post 1, March 9, 2022, same day as edit, deleted. Title, Still Alive You MFers Update. Post 2, March 30, 2022, 3 weeks later. Update, 3 weeks ago I might have died. Now I'm alive, and relearning how to walk. Hello lads, you may remember my previous post. If not, here's a quick recap. I, 14M, have a bone disease known as MHE, which causes non-cancerous bone tumors to grow across the body. Although they aren't cancerous, they still cause problems such as causing my legs to not be able to walk longer than 3 minutes, and causing pain in my legs. Due to this, my doctors suggested I do a surgery to remove the bone tumors in my ribs and knees. They'd have to remove 2 entire ribs as the tumors were inside the rib. I was prepared for any result of the surgery. Didn't really care whether I lived or died, I had prepared for death and was hoping to live. I'll write what happened on each day in the hospital and each week at home. Note that I don't write a diary, so all this is in hindsight, so some dates may be inaccurate as I forgot when some events happened. Also, I add unnecessary details sometimes, so I'll put a TLDR at the end. Day 1 in hospital. It was early morning when I entered the hospital. I texted some friends and hugged my sisters and mom. I then went to the operating room with my dad, and the doctors took over from there. Quick briefings happen, then the gas mask is on, and I inhale anesthesia. Whatever happened, it would be alright. And I wake up. Yep, I'm alive, and feeling pretty weird. The surgery was successful, very nice. The doctors wheel my bed to the ward, and my mom's overjoyed. Once I'm aware enough to use my phone, I text my family and friends. They are all glad to see me alive. I also update my post on Reddit and posted a I lived bitch meme selfie on my profile. I eat dinner and it's time for bed. Then I wake up in the middle of the night. Oh shoot, I can't breathe properly without immense pain. The one thought in my mind was, Gott verdammt, did I celebrate too early? I call the nurse, he gets me a O2 mask and breathing returns back to normal. With not much else to do, I return to slumber. Day 2, the doctors are concerned about what happened last night, so I did an x-ray on my chest. They decide it's alright, and I go back to the ward. The thing that happened on day 1 wouldn't happen again, fortunately. Day 2 was spent mostly lazing around, being in pain, playing dumb Roblox games and learning to sit up on the bed with the help of my physiotherapist. Not sure what else to say, day 2 was boring. Oh, and I barely got any sleep, because there were 3 children crying at night in the ward. Day 3 is much more interesting. On this day, the physiotherapist came and told me I should relearn how to walk. She trains me to stand up, gets mad at how I'm not standing straight, mercy please, my knees just got operated on, and we begin walking for a few steps. I need a lot of support and it hurts like absolute hell, but it's progress at least. I can make it to the toilet, but I still refrain from using it as sitting down on the low toilet would hurt. Worse than hell. We also remove the bandages on my chest. The doctors say they look pretty good. He adds a waterproof transparent spray thingy onto my wounds so I can sponge bath easier. I got a bit of a fever, presumably from an infection, but it's nothing serious. And the night is much better, only 2 kids cry. Day 4. I practice walking a bit more, and I can walk down the entire hallway. I need support for this though. The physiotherapist decides that now I am slowly regaining the ability to walk. I can go now. Dismissal forms are prepared and I leave before lunch. I take an ambulance home, as I live in Singapore, where ambulances don't cost your life savings. Flex on the Americans. First time in an ambulance. So pretty neat. I spend the rest of day 4 chatting with sisters and forcing my sis to buy me video games. And I can finally sleep without crying children. Yes, week 1, day 5, 6, 7. Pretty boring, spent most of it playing video games lol. Week 2, I begin making progress in walking by myself. I can walk a good 5, 10 minutes without rest. This is actually really good progress. I'm shocked how fast I healed. I also revisit the hospital and they remove the stitches in my knee. Nice. Week 3, this is where we are now. I can walk for up to 15 minutes, longer than I could ever imagine last year. Wow, I'm super happy to be at this point. Today, I will try to use the stairs and see if I'm capable of doing that. I'll update y'all if it's successful. I would also like to thank everyone for leaving nice comments on my previous post. I appreciate all the kind words. Life is getting better now, and I'm glad I'm still alive. I'm excited to enjoy every moment of life, now with the ability to walk. I'll gladly reply to any questions y'all have. TLDR, survived a surgery, almost died again, did a few x-rays and made good progress on relearning to walk. I'm happy now. Mini update in comments. May 6, 2022, 2 months later. I can now do like 2 stories worth of stairs. Very good development, from someone who until 2 months ago was wheelchair bound. Update post 4, December 19, 2022, 9 months from OG post. Title, many months later, still alive. Lots has changed. Hey guys, it's been ages. Sorry for the lack of updates. I've been busy living life and I'm admittedly kind of a lurker nowadays, and don't post or comment much. So what has changed? Some good and bad things have happened. My ribcage feels completely fine nowadays. I can breathe without issue. Hooray for nitrogen and oxygen. Thanks for being able to enter my lungs without making them touch egg-sized tumors. Unfortunately, my legs have regrown some tumors, and they hurt again. The doctors don't want to operate again, as the tumor is near some major nerves this time around, and would also take a lot of digging through muscles and stuff. So I'm back in the wheelchair, with limited walking abilities, about 10 minutes max. I guess breathing is a lot more important than walking, so I'd consider the surgery to still be a beneficial thing. Regardless, I have a few things to talk about. I have gotten a lot of messages from people concerned about me. That's why I want to make this post. First up, some people want to share my post on other platforms, while others did it without asking LMAO. Feel free to do it, just link my Reddit post account. Secondly, some people with the same illness as I am wanted to reach out to me. Sorry for not responding, I have so many DMs and I simply don't look at them all. I'll probably get to you in a while. The last thing, a lot of people complimented my writing styles in those posts. Thank you very much, I try my best to make my English teachers proud. I am also considering getting a writing career, though it seems very difficult to do so. Might consider writing short stories and making money from Patreon. And that's all I have to say. I'm somewhat happy with my life. Maybe one day I'll walk for more than 10 minutes again. But until then, thank you for all the support. Thank you for the many kind messages. Thank you for making me so much less stressed on March 9th. Someone in the comments told me the percentages were for old people, and I was actually very likely to survive that surgery. That was assuring, thank you kind stranger. Love you all, and adios. New update, added to original post. March 5th, 2024, 2 years from OG post. Edit 4, hey, I've recently turned 16. Just wanted to give an update on my life. I'm still sick, unfortunately, that's the sad part of chronic illnesses, but that's alright. I've coped with it, and I thank you for reading this, for whatever reason, years later. Also, I know that the percentages my younger self wrote was absolute nonsense according to a few commenters. Apologies, I was a 14-year-old who was panicking because of a surgery. My odds of survival were likely much higher than I anticipated back then. Still, this post really did portray how I felt before a possibly life-changing surgery. Once again, thanks for taking the time to read this really, really old post. I hope you enjoyed my story. Am I the asshole for asking my husband's groomswoman to wear a wig at our wedding to avoid ruining photos, or disinviting her if she refuses? Original post, my boyfriend, now fiancé, asked me to marry him 2 months ago. To give a little background, I met him at a farmer's market when I was 18 and he was 26, we are now 24F and 32M. We've been together for a little bit over 5 years, and I'm very happy with him. Now to the story. My fiance's friend Brittany has been friends with him since they were in elementary school. Throughout our early dating days, I expressed I was not a fan of this woman. There are many reasons as to why, such as us not having common interests and absolutely polar opposite moral codes, but the main one was her interest in embarrassing me and my fiance, possibly because she likes him. When we were first starting to go on dates, she had shown up and tried to invite herself to the date because he had told their mutual friend group chat where he was taking me. She then decided that she would go to the same restaurant, and had tried to make a scene about him cheating on her and that she was heartbroken. It escalated very quickly and it ended with me asking the manager to get her trespassed, as she was delusional and I, nor my date, did not want her around. This sort of situation happened 3 more times, even going as far as showing up to his grandparents' house to stop me from meeting his family. At that point, I made it clear to him that if anything like that were to happen again, I'd be out of there. Which he completely understood and agreed with me, wholeheartedly. He convinced his friend group to go low on communication about Brittany with him because she was acting weird around him and they all understood and disagreed with her actions. He had extremely low contact after that point, and I learned years later that she had gotten major therapy, even checked herself into a mental hospital, and went on medication to stop these absolutely unhinged personality traits. Around 4 years later, they reconnected through a mutual friend's birthday party we were all at, and she genuinely seemed like she had changed personality-wise from the person I had met 5-ish years ago. We still didn't agree on most things, but she apologized for the way she had acted previously and owned up to all the BS she tried to pull with him. So I just kept my guard up, but encouraged my fiancé to make friends with her again. I'm not friends with her, but I am friendly towards her. Skipping to now, I have been planning this wedding basically since I was born, over-exaggerating, but it has been in my thoughts since I was a young child. The wedding will not happen for another 2 years. The theme is supposed to be similar to D&D style fantasy. A Renaissance wedding with blue, orange and red as the basic color scheme. Most of the wedding would be held outside at a local state park, but part of it would be held inside. Specifically, the cake and food would be cut and served inside, as well as some of the guest photos. This is the important part. I have a personal friend, Bree, 28F, who does professional pictures at Renaissance festivals across the US. Her job is to drive around across the country to Ren fairs and take pictures for certain venues. It's a very cool job, and I love seeing the pictures. However, she does editing for some of these venues with a green screen to make it look more aesthetic, or to totally change the scenery behind the people in the photo. For example, she showed me mock-ups for me in the past, showing silly people in costumes being chased by goblins and trolls, a dragon breathing fire behind a party of knights, and even a garden of lights with fairies flying through it, etc. It's silly stuff and is for people to have fun with. My idea was to incorporate this into my wedding. The guests would choose whatever background they'd like from a catalog that my friend and I put together, and Bree or her teammate would take pictures of them throughout the day. These pictures would be uploaded electronically and then be edited by her after the wedding. These were mandatory for all guests that wanted to participate, so I could use the pictures for postcards and scrapbooking. It's my hobby. The people who wanted to take part in this activity would have to check a box on the save the date form I sent out. My assumption is that most guests would be doing this, as most of the people that will be invited are extremely rambunctious and love activities involving being silly. I do want to make it clear, these would not be the only pictures taken at the wedding. There still would be normal pictures being taken of the wedding itself, as well as photos that will likely be framed and used as decorations that would have no green screen of my husband and I, and the wedding party. A few days after he had proposed, my fiancé asked me if I'd feel comfortable with him inviting Brittany to the wedding as a groomswoman. Honestly, I was fine with it. Until the topic of her hair came up. In the year or so that he had reconnected, she cut and dyed her hair a lime green with a cool undertone and highlights. I honestly really like it and it suits her facial structure extremely well. However, I was worried about the green screen and her hair, so I invited her to my friend's home a while later so we could see if the screen would blend with her hair. Unfortunately, it did. In the pictures, you could see a major glitch with every background we tried because of her hair. I asked my friend if there was a way to edit around it and she said there was, but it would be an extra amount of money because it would be way more time to go through and possibly edit multiple photos of her with groups of people and herself so the picture wouldn't glitch. I'm very against this, as our budget has to be semi-perfect. We are accounting for accidents and issues, but not extra money to my friend's business because of one woman's choice of dye blending very well with the green screen. While I do love her hair, I asked if she'd wear a wig to the wedding so she could still be included in the green screen pictures, even offered to get it professionally done and I'd pay for that. This is when she became very angry with me. To sum up what she had said, her being asked to wear a wig was basically me saying I wanted to cover herself. That her hair was an expression of herself and that she loved it. I told her that I loved it as well, but in order for her to be included, she would need to wear a wig, as the green in her hair cannot just be covered up via a hat or other headwear. She has been saying that I just don't want to include her in the wedding. As a compromise against the wig, I proposed that she get more pictures of her having fun taken at the wedding itself, instead of the green screen. She didn't like this idea because she claims it isn't fair all the other guests get to be put in a fun picture and she's the only one not allowed. Though I sort of agree with her, it isn't my own. So I offered that she paid for the extra editing costs it would be to take and edit more of her pictures. At first, she was fine with the idea. Until I mentioned that the extra editing would cost around $100 for just a singular picture to be taken and edited by my friend, and the final price depended on how many photos she ended up in on the green screen. Then, she declined the offer and tried to throw it in my face that Bree's prices were outrageous. I disagreed with her sentiment about the prices, and I haven't spoken to her since then. Throughout this whole ordeal, my fiancé has been on my side, but he has been upset over her possibly not being there. While he does agree with me about not wanting to pay more for just her, as well as that she's being overdramatic, he has sympathy for her being the only person being left out of this choice activity. While I also have sympathy, I just don't see an alternative here. We can't use a blue screen over a green screen because the colors of the wedding are blue, red and orange. And I don't wish to pay for a new screen for my friend's business just because of one person. And the alternatives I have come up with, she has shot down. So my final decision was to ask him to disinvite her from the wedding to not create further drama, if she does not want to wear a wig. After long talks between us, he agreed with me and sent her a message that she would be disinvited entirely and would be welcome to celebrate with just us, after our honeymoon had ended. They met up soon afterwards and he stayed firm on the matter, despite her crying and still refusing to do anything to correct her hair. She still believes that me asking her to do this is because of some power imbalance and that I just want to bully her, which I don't think I'm doing. She has a year to think it over. I can tell this situation bothers him though, and I've addressed it a few times. All of the times I have, he says it is for the best, as she would just ruin the photos she was in with the green screen and could cost us to delete hundreds of pictures, purely based on her actions. I agree, but it still bothers me that I'm doing something wrong. Especially since after this incident her mom and dad have reached out to me to scold me for abusing my power against their daughter at one of the biggest parties she's ever been invited to. Even my friends are split on the issue, all of them having sympathy for her but some of them saying I'm an AH because I won't just let her come to the wedding and have someone to block her from taking any pictures with the green screen. And just to make sure the record is straight, I am not trying to force her to change her hair in any way. I do not want her to dye it differently, nor would I expect her to. I purely just want a non-green wig to be put on her head for the wedding and then she can remove it afterwards. I would normally say that she could remove it after the green screen portion, but I'm still working out if I'm just going to let it stay up for the entire day of the wedding, or if I'm going to hold other activities for everyone and have Bree close the photo stuff down. Again, the wedding isn't for another 2 years, so I'm able to think it over for at least a year. I don't know, am I the asshole? TLDR. My husband's groomswoman won't wear a wig for my wedding due to her believing it is her sense of pride. While I do like her hair, she could potentially ruin pictures of a green screen photo op activity I will be having at my wedding, costing us more than $1,000 for pictures I cannot use, and even more money if I got her photoshopped out or blended in with the background. All other alternatives given to her have been denied. This has caused my husband to give her an ultimatum where he outlines that she will be uninvited if she does not agree to the terms within a year. Am I the AH for this? AITA has no consensus bot. OOP received mixed reactions. OOP responds to multiple comments regarding the photo booth and background. OP. I will add some context to that, as I thought I made it clear, but apparently not. The activity with the green screen is open to be used by everyone that signed up for it, mostly so I can get an accurate number of people that will have multiple pictures taken of them. I would encourage them to do it in groups, so if one person's hair is making it glitch, and you have multiple people in a picture, it turns into a more than just $100 venture. It turns into $1,000s of dollars that I simply do not have. Bree told me that the total price could potentially quadruple the price I'm willing to pay because it would take hours to Photoshop every single picture Brittany is in. This woman as a guest was always an option, but they decided to invite her to be more than that, and are now reneging because of hair. Guests are welcome to the green screen too, That is why uninviting her was on the plate, because if she doesn't want to be left out of a portion of the wedding, then how else would I get her to not take pictures with other people with the green screen? OP on Brittany's green dyed hair situation. OP. I didn't mention this only because I was already typing a lot, and forgot to add it, but she has more appointments booked to get her hair touched up with more green coloring in the next 2 years because of the fading of that color like that does. I only recently found out this information from my fiancé before we decided to tell her about the issue. If her hair isn't green for whatever reason in a year, or she changes her mind about not minding that she isn't allowed to be in the green screen pictures, I'm sure something could work out differently and that wouldn't affect much at all. So the easiest solution would be for her to just not be in those photos. Right. This is correct and I agree with you. The issue is that I'm being made into the bad guy because she doesn't want to be left out of one of the 4 big activities I have ideas for the wedding. I didn't include all the other stuff because I wasn't trying to pile on about how badly she's taking this, as the post is already very long. But, she yelled at me, cried, called my fiancé 33 times while he was at work, and more. All because I can't fix that she physically cannot be in green screen pictures without ruining them because I do not want to afford a major increase on my spending. I don't get why OP is jumping to uninviting her over the much simpler, I'm sorry we can't afford the extra to accommodate your hair color for those pictures. If you won't pay or wear a wig then you won't be in them. A lot of people keep saying this and I think I should have made it more clear. We didn't uninvite her, technically. The conversation between her and my fiancé was more similar to the best recollection of his memory. Fiancé. We need to talk about your antics ever since OP told you that you couldn't be in the green screen pictures. Brittany. Okay, I was going to bring it up to you, but I thought you'd make the better choice once we got to talk in person. Fiancé. I have decided that I don't want you to be at my wedding if you won't just choose how to temporarily alleviate the issues with the photo op and your hair. Brittany. What? You would uninvite me over this? Why can't me, just have her editor friend edit my pictures so my hair doesn't get cropped out and ruin the look of the pictures? Fiancé. Because it costs a lot more for Bree to spend 4-5 hours on each photo, over-exaggeration on his part, to individually and manually put your hair back to normal. There's a long process involved and she charges by the hour for editing like that. We're already paying a lot for wedding photos because OP and I want to use them for years to come. And we can't afford another large sum of money for Photoshop editing added to the 1200 photo package. Even if they sent them digitally to a different editor, then Bree, we'd still be looking at an additional $1,000 tacked onto it. Brittany. Starts crying, I thought you wanted me at your wedding, and wanted my niece to be the ring bearer. I want to be in those photos because they look like so much fun. She just doesn't want me there, so she's saying I can't come, all because I just want to be included with everyone else for the photo op. I just don't understand why you won't pay the $1,000 and be done with it. You make a lot of money, and so does she. Fiancé. Your sister agrees with OP and I about this topic. She thinks you're being ridiculous and dying on the wrong hill. Your niece is still on the table to be the ring bearer, even though we've never explicitly said so. Just asked her mom if she could do that without getting too nervous in front of all the people. Either way, it doesn't matter. I would like you to be there, but if you're going to be in the photo on your hill, I'm not going to tolerate it. I do not want you ruining my wedding because you decided to throw a fit, while you're there, so that you can't be in the photo op. Or, worse, you photobomb pictures so you can be in them. OP has made it clear on the outcomes of the photos to you. You look like you're bald, and you block pieces of people behind you because of your hair. Unfortunately, that means you can't be included because we are paying per photo, not for the time. Brittany. Starts getting a little hysterical and then stands up. Fine, if you're not going to let my hair be the way it is, I'm just not going to go. I want to be in the photo op. I don't understand why you can't pay for the extra editing cost for me because I'm your oldest friend. We have been together since we were 4 and 5, I just don't understand why you'd choose that woman over me in this situation. She is abusing her power. She doesn't understand that the photo op is a major part of the wedding. It isn't, it's just an activity, and she is not including me in it. I didn't know this part happened until I was typing this comment with my fiancé, but here is some added dialogue. Fiancé. Okay Brittany, in that case, if you won't fix this situation, whether it be to just not participate in the photo op or wear a wig, cover your hair, I don't want you there to cause drama. If you do decide to change it in the next year before we have to book the exact amount of people for the venue, you are more than welcome to be there as a guest. But I do not want you as a groomswoman anymore. You've made me uncomfortable with how you're treating my future wife, and your endless barrage of insults towards her is not going to be tolerated. You have insulted her, so you have insulted me. I believed you had changed for the better, but I was wrong. The only reason your invitation even still stands, with conditions, is because your family is very dear to me, and I love your sister like a daughter. She starts crying hysterically and tries to grab him by the sleeve, but he pulls away, gets up from the bar and walks out of the restaurant. So yeah, that's the entire conversation to the best of my fiance's ability. Basically, she's being incredibly difficult and stubborn over wanting us to pay $1,000 plus for extra editing because she knows we have the money, we just don't want to pay it only for her. Honestly, if the situation was different, I would have been persuaded to pay half of the cost of the editing and just taken the loss on the photos she happened to be in. I would have done that as the last compromise, over just covering her head temporarily. But with her constant insults, endless barrage of complaints that aren't related to this post, and her being extremely rude to me and my partner about the wedding photos, it just isn't in the cards for me now. Update: I honestly didn't think I'd post an update at all this year because I mostly got the confirmation I needed to know I was mostly correct in my assumption that she'd cause more drama at the wedding than necessary, and that I'd be correct in that I would be okay to disinvite her. I was trying to be detailed in that post, but in this one I'm going to be a little less detailed. Basically, 3 days ago, I was sent my post on Messenger from Brittany. She is a notorious Reddit lurker, apparently, and saw it a few hours after it was posted. It didn't even have to get multiple upvotes because she just read the ones available in the recent category. I told her I posted because I had a lot of inner conflict towards my involvement with my fiancé choosing to disinvite her if she can't just make some form of sacrifice to not be in the green screen, wear a wig so she can be included. She got extremely mad at me. Called me names, threatened that I'd be sued for defamation, etc. This honestly just made me realize how little she actually changed. Of course, I showed my fiancé and he was appalled at her actions. He said he was going to block her and did so that day, and so did I. Yesterday, I woke up to 43 missed calls from a number I did not recognize, that ended up to be her and a dozen voicemails claiming that I was stealing my fiancé away from her again, that I had purposefully targeted her for just wanting to be included with everyone else, and so on. I do not know how she got my number, but I obviously blocked it. After that, I reported her to the police on the non-emergency line because I didn't know if I would be needing to fear for my safety. I'm really glad I did this. After my fiancé had left for work, she showed up to our home and knocked on the door. I cracked a window near the door and asked what she wanted. She said, whilst crying, that I needed to let her in the house because it was her right to be with my fiancé, not me. She started kicking at the door and I told her to knock it off. Immediately, I just started dialing the non-emergency police number for my nearest precinct because I already knew what was happening in that moment, and I was supposed to be clocking in for work on my computer at that moment. I texted my boss and she excused my absence for the day as well. As I was doing this, I kept repeating, "Go away. I called the police, and I do not want you here. You are trespassing." She was saying all kinds of things I don't wish to repeat here, but the lesser of the things she was saying involved calling me a white *cyst pig, she is mixed race, and so am I, saying she was 8 months pregnant with my fiancé's baby. There's quite literally zero proof of this, including no baby bump, despite being a fairly thin woman. Screaming that she would take me to hell trying to break my metal outside door, but hurting herself instead. And so on. Basically, she had a full-on meltdown. The police came, saw that I was trying to break my door down, and immediately put her in cuffs and sat her down. She was claiming this was her house and that she'd lived there for 10 years, that I had broken in and locked her out, etc. Of course, because of her psychotic appearance, I was questioned and once given the real story. As well as being able to provide proof that I was the owner of the home, she was taken to the police station. As far as I'm aware, she was booked for the night and was let go today. I did agree to a temporary no-contact order and my fiancé and I are going to proceed with a permanent one. Her parents called after they heard she was put in a holding cell, and apologized profusely. Apparently, Brittany had lied to them about the extent of her actions and downplayed a lot of it. On the exterior, she seemed fine and well-rounded. But mentally, she had snapped again from not taking her meds for a year. She never told her parents this, just acted normally until one of her triggers came back. My fiancé. No, he didn't do anything wrong, she just had a major trigger when it came to him because of a deeply obsessive personality disorder. I wasn't trying to air her dirty laundry about her medical history in the last post, but she was diagnosed with BPD and a large handful of disorders caused by trauma she had endured in her childhood from her great-grandfather. She's an unhealthy person, and I regret even allowing her to have the notion that we had forgiven her for her past. I'm pretty shaken from this ordeal. And I can't believe this was all because of a goddamn green screen and some pictures that were supposed to just be treated as silly holiday cards for my foreseeable future. This is making me rethink the idea altogether, to be completely honest. Maybe I'll just rent an adult bounce house because that seems more fun than green-screened professional photography. Anyways, that's the update. Thanks for reading and the advice I was given in the last post. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. My God. I would love to be as calm and collected as you. Teach me your ways. In all seriousness though, I hope you're okay. Don't let her get to you. Do your wedding the way you want. Wishing you all the very best. OP. Oh, I was not calm and collected. I was crying and feeling very scared. The only reason I was able to make rational decisions is because I had mentally and physically prepared myself for another incident like this happening, because I was a victim of a non-sexual assault during a break-in at my mom's house when I was 14, and it made me terrified of not knowing what to do if an incident like this ever occurred again. I was acting on instinct. Therapy and an incredible women's defense coach got me to this point. I also live in Texas, so castle doctrine was on my side. Commenter 2. This woman is an absolute lunatic. Make sure that you get a permanent restraining order. You should also consider security for your wedding venue because she's more than likely going to show up and do something crazy again. Good luck, OP, you're going to need it. OP, I already have security in the works that was unrelated to this incident, now it's a for sure having a small security team. Commenter 3, this situation isn't about a green screen or pictures. It's about an extremely unstable person refusing to follow their doctor's orders. The hair and picture problems are, at best, the catalyst for her breakdown, but it most certainly isn't the cause. It's your and your fiancé's day, so if y'all decide to do something other than the pictures, go right ahead. However, I would hate for you to regret not doing it because of one nutball. I turned down my ex's attempt to partner in my new restaurant after she sabotaged our first business and shattered my trust. I, 32M, and my ex-fiancée, Veronica, 31F, had a food truck together. We both dreamed of having our own restaurant when we first met 3 years ago while attending culinary school. While I had been working in kitchens since I was 16 to support myself, Veronica, who hailed from an affluent family, had never worked in the culinary sector prior to attending school. Despite our disparate upbringings, we clicked right away. When we first started the business, we were engaged for 2 years and dated for 6. Since I graduated, I had been saving money by working 60-hour weeks at different restaurants to accumulate cash and experience. By my 29th birthday, I had saved about $100,000. Veronica persuaded me to start with a food truck instead of continuing to save money until I could create a real restaurant. Before spending money on a complete restaurant, she suggested, it would be the ideal opportunity to test our concept and develop our brand. My entire concept and idea for the food truck came from me. By fusing contemporary cooking methods with my grandmother's traditional recipes, I want to serve fusion cuisine. Even though Veronica didn't contribute any money, I decided to make her a 50-50 partner because she looked pleased about it and we were engaged and hoping to get married within the year. I oversaw operations and cooking, while she handled all financial matters because she had accounting knowledge from a prior position. The first year was fantastic. We discovered the ideal location next to a few office buildings, and our food was well liked by frequent patrons. We were found by local food bloggers, who gave us excellent evaluations. We even made the list of the top 10 food trucks in our city. I felt like I had finally realized my dream after our accomplishment, and it was even more satisfying to do it alongside Veronica. However, after 14 months, things began to become strange. I started to see inconsistencies in our inventories. Based on our sales, supplies would run out sooner than they ought to. Veronica indicated that we might be squandering more food than we thought, or that some staff might be stealing when I brought this up to her. Since she was in charge of the books, I trusted her judgment. After that, I saw that funds appeared to be vanishing from our account. Despite making a healthy profit, we never appeared to have enough money for necessities. Veronica would become defensive and accuse me of not trusting her if I attempted to look at the books. Do you think I'm stealing from us? Or don't you trust your future wife? Are some of the things she would say. I felt bad for even asking, because of her. When one of our suppliers called to inform us that we were 3 months late on our payments, it was the tipping point. I knew we had enough revenue to support our costs, so this was illogical. I checked our business account online while Veronica was asleep. I felt ill to my stomach after discovering what I did. Veronica had been regularly moving money, often thousands of dollars at a time, from our corporate account to her personal account. The following morning, when I confronted her, she sobbed and acknowledged that she had been stealing money for months. She stated that she needed money to support Andrea, 25F, her younger sister, who was allegedly having a lot of credit card debt and didn't want their parents to find out. I tried to be understanding even though I was upset. Andrea, who occasionally assisted us with the food truck, was also like a sister to me. It was unbelievable to me that she was in such difficulties and hadn't approached us immediately. In order to discuss the matter and determine how we could assist Andrea in managing her debt, I gave her a call. However, Andrea was utterly perplexed. She said that she had no debt and that Veronica had not given her any money. Actually, she was doing very well financially and had recently received a promotion at work. Andrea was astonished when I informed her of Veronica's justification for the missing funds. Over the course of 8 months, it was discovered that Veronica had stolen about $50,000 from our company. The complex lies she had said and the way she had exploited her own sister as a cover story were more significant than the money. Her tale altered when I approached her once more. She said she wanted to surprise me and that she had been saving the money for our wedding and a down payment on a home. She had been taking out cash at ATMs, according to bank records, but the money was nowhere to be located. I promptly called off our engagement. Veronica sobbed uncontrollably, alternating between pleading for my pardon and claiming that I was exaggerating. Her parents became involved, which made matters worse. They maintained that since we were engaged and would shortly get married, it wasn't actually theft. Her father even implied that my tight control over the company funds amounted to financial abuse. In order to settle our supplier bills, I had to sell the food truck. I lost nearly everything I had accumulated because of the stolen money and the depreciated worth of a used food truck. I almost went bankrupt and was horrified. According to Veronica's parents, it was only a little financial dispute that I had exaggerated. Even some of our mutual acquaintances said I should try to make amends with her since I was being too harsh. After working at several jobs for 2 years and saving every penny, I eventually launched my own tiny restaurant 6 months ago. It's nothing special, but I own it and have total authority over it. I maintain thorough records of everything and engaged qualified accountants. The restaurant is thriving. We're already making money and receiving positive feedback. Veronica arrived during dinner service last week. She claimed to want to put things right after learning about my achievement from friends we shared in common. She said she had changed and had some money to invest, so she proposed to be partners once more. She mentioned how effectively we collaborated before to the problems and suggested that we work together to further the restaurant's success. She has persisted even after I urged her to leave after laughing incredulously. Her parents began phoning me, accusing me of being spiteful and urging me to give Veronica another chance because she was essentially family. They mentioned how she had assisted me in launching my first company and claimed that I owed her for that. I blocked their phone numbers. On social media, Veronica's pals are now disparaging me and accusing me of being callous for failing to assist my ex-family and getting back on their feet. Since everyone deserves a second opportunity, several mutual friends claim that I'm being too harsh and that I should at least listen to her. Update. 3 weeks have passed since my last post. Thank you to everyone who left a comment and offered encouragement. I need to get this off my chest since, regrettably, things have become much worse. Veronica and her parents started visiting my restaurant during our busiest times after I blocked them. Initially, Veronica was the only one ordering water while seated alone at a corner table. She would remain for hours, looking at me every time I went by. Some clients observed the tension, and my employees began to feel uneasy. Her parents then joined in. They would only order the cheapest items on the menu and occupy a large table that could seat 6 people during our Friday and Saturday dinner rush. They would try to wave me down every time I passed, screaming things like, "This is no way to treat your future in-laws," or "We're family, you can't ignore us forever," loud enough for the customers around to hear. At first, I made an effort to manage things professionally. My host seated them in less conspicuous locations and told the employees to handle them just like any other patron. However, they went too far last week. During dinner service, Veronica's father got up and began yelling at other patrons about how I had taken their daughter's business ideas and left her when she needed assistance. There was a commotion when I had to ask them to leave. Only after I threatened to call the police did they go. The following day, I began to see odd internet evaluations. To submit unfavorable evaluations about my restaurant, someone had set up several accounts. They said we served bad food, had rats in the kitchen, and had major health code breaches. The fact that certain reviews brought up particular instances from our food truck days that only she would be aware of, such as the time we had to close early due to a generator failure, and that she twisted into a tale about food contamination was what gave Veronica away. My business began to suffer from the phony reviews. Our lunch attendance significantly shrank, and I experienced multiple cancellations of reservations. Veronica was served with a cease and desist letter by the lawyer I hired, who specialized in defamation matters. In response, she posted on many sites and made more fictitious accounts. At that moment, an unforeseen event occurred. Veronica's sister, Andrea, visited my restaurant after it had closed. She claimed she was unable to remain silent any longer and was clearly agitated. She disclosed that Veronica never provided assistance to anyone using the pilfered funds. She had been concealing her gambling addiction for years. Andrea claims that before we even met, Veronica had been going to underground casinos. Although she was able to conceal it effectively, her losses had been increasing. She immediately used the $50,000 she took from our food truck business to settle debts related to gambling. 2 years prior, when Andrea found Veronica unconscious in her apartment with threatening messages from loan sharks on her phone, she had learned of this. Andrea proved everything to me with pictures, text messages, and bank statements. Veronica has been controlling everyone in her vicinity. She had even convinced their parents that she needed the money for our wedding preparations, so she had stolen it. She had previously gambled away her savings, which is why she hadn't contributed any funds to our food truck. It was troubling why Andrea hadn't stepped out sooner. She had been blackmailed by Veronica. Although their conservative parents were unaware of it, Andrea was seeing a lady. If Andrea ever told their parents the truth about the gambling, Veronica had vowed to expose her. When Andrea realized that Veronica's behavior was ruining my new company, she eventually made the decision to notify me since she could no longer bear the guilt. I informed our common acquaintances, who had been disparaging me on social media, of this knowledge. Many expressed shock and apologies for making assumptions about me before hearing the whole tale. Many recalled giving Veronica loans that she never paid back, constantly citing various justifications such as unexpected costs. Veronica's parents, meanwhile, continue to live in denial. They accused Andrea of lying to conceal her own lifestyle choices when she attempted to provide proof of Veronica's gaming. They are now accusing me of being cruel for disseminating false information about Veronica's alleged addiction and of manipulating Andrea into turning against her sister. When some of Veronica's contacts from the casino began to visit my restaurant, the situation became even more difficult. They weren't subtle individuals, and other patrons felt uneasy around them. One of them cornered me in the parking lot after closing last week and said I ought to be more giving to my ex-fiancée. To keep an eye on the property during business hours, I had to hire a security guard. Because of all this commotion, my business is getting hurt. I've had to pay for security and legal fees, and our weekday dinner service has decreased by 30%. However, I'm not going to back down. We are getting ready to file a lawsuit against Veronica and anyone else attempting to harm my company, and my lawyer is compiling proof of harassment and defamation. I know that giving Veronica money will just make her conduct worse, yet some people have urged that I do so to make this stop. Instead of supporting her and making excuses for her behavior, she needs professional therapy for her gambling addiction. Part of the reason I'm giving this update is to alert others to the ways addiction may lead to manipulation and harm to those closest to the addict. I'm concentrating on safeguarding my company and my staff for the time being. I've started recording every event and added more security cameras. I've also warned other local business owners about the possibility of harassment. My true friends have come to light as a result of this circumstance, and I'm appreciative to those who have supported me during this chaos. Update 2. 2 months have passed since my last update, and what I have in store for you feels like something from a horrible movie. A man named Michael, 35M, entered my restaurant during prep time and asked to speak with me alone, just when I believed I had exposed all of Veronica's lies. He identified himself as the current legal husband of Veronica, not her ex-husband. I initially believed that this was just another effort at harassment, but Michael had data to support my claims. He gave me their 7-year-old marriage certificate, pictures from their wedding, and court documents detailing his efforts to find Veronica 5 years ago after she vanished with their money. Since Veronica had never formally divorced him, our engagement was a sham. Michael told his story over lunch. He married young after being in love with Veronica in high school. They opened a tiny bakery in a different state with their wedding funds and a loan from his parents. Does that sound familiar? Veronica maxed out their credit cards, cleared out their accounts, and disappeared after 2 years of what appeared to be a prosperous business. She only left a note expressing her sense of being stuck in the marriage. In addition to the divorce, Michael spent years trying to find her because she had ruined his family. In order to repay the company loans they co-signed, his parents had to sell their home. The time was ideal. 3 months before she met me at culinary school, Veronica vanished from Michael's life. When I brought up the topic of actually choosing a wedding date, she always had an excuse since she had changed her last name but had never formally divorced him. Michael's story made me feel physically ill. Veronica wasn't being sentimental or pragmatic when she recommended that we elope or expressed a desire for a small, private wedding ceremony. Legally, she was unable to wed me. She had previously stolen money from our food truck business, but this was her most recent theft. Surprisingly, Veronica revealed everything when I texted her to confront her about Michael. But she twisted the story, as Veronica always does. She said Michael had been abusive and domineering. Michael, however, showed me police records he had submitted, which demonstrated that she was the one who was abusing him and that she had to steal the money in order to get away. Veronica said that she had intended to divorce Michael in the end and that she had kept her marriage a secret from me out of protection. After hours of note comparing, Michael and I discovered that Veronica had been operating the same fraud in several places. She would connect with someone who wanted to launch a food-related business, get access to their money, and then drain their accounts. As far as we know, she had done this at least 4 times. Together with Michael's attorney, my attorney is currently constructing a fraud case against Veronica. At last, Michael is able to serve her with divorce documents. The fact that this seems to be a pattern of intentional illegal activity across several states is another reason why the authorities are interested. When further victims began contacting us, it was the biggest shock. Michael published my original Reddit post in forums for company owners after discovering it. 3 other individuals came forward with comparable accounts of Veronica. Even while she was still living with Michael, she was engaged to one. Every story had the same pattern. She would become part of their life, win their trust by falling in love and then take whatever she could. When Veronica's parents found out about her prior marriage, they eventually stopped supporting her. When her mother arrived at my restaurant in tears, she said she didn't know who her daughter was. However, they have just vanished without offering me an apology for their harassment and accusations. Andrea claims that in order to settle some of Veronica's gambling debts, they have deactivated their social media accounts, ceased frequenting the restaurant, and mortgaged their home. Since we called the police, the casino staff has also retreated. It turns out that some of them didn't want the spotlight and were operating an illegal gambling enterprise. Veronica owes them more than $200,000, we found out. She had been trying to recover her losses by spending the money she had stolen from me and other people, but she had only ended up losing more. At last, things are returning to normal at my restaurant. Regular consumers are coming back now that the phony reviews have been taken down. This strange experience has made me buddies with Michael. He even promised to assist me in growing my company after the legal matters are resolved. He stated that he hopes this entire fiasco would lead to something positive. I'm still amazed at how meticulously Veronica organized everything. She made up whole false personas and life tales in addition to lying about minor details. Since they discovered anomalies in her application materials, the culinary school where we met is currently looking into the matter. Her entire existence seems to have been based on falsehoods. Update 3. This will most likely be my final update, as it has been 6 months since my last post. Rust month, Veronica was taken into custody in Las Vegas. She apparently ran away there after all the information was made public and attempted to con a casino owner with the same ruse. She was obviously unaware that casino owners spoke with one another, and one of them knew who she was from the warnings that had been going around. Under a different fictitious name, the cops discovered her residing at an inexpensive motel. She had 5 different IDs and credit cards in different names when she was arrested. Notebooks describing her prior scams, including the one she perpetrated on me, were also discovered. She had everything in writing, including when to start collecting money, how to build trust, and how long to wait before proposing a business opportunity. Everything was organized like a business plan. She faces many fraud charges from the district attorney in multiple states. In addition to Michael and me, they discovered at least 7 more victims. While she was still legally married to Michael, she was also engaged to 2 of them. She has taken about $800,000 in total throughout the years. She could face severe jail time. Andrea now frequents my restaurant on a regular basis. She moved in with her girlfriend in a nearby apartment after coming out to her parents and being shunned. Ironically, she now assists me with the books, carrying out the task her sister was meant to perform. In addition to being far more skilled at it, she is also honest. We occasionally discuss Veronica and attempt to determine whether there were any indicators that we overlooked, but our main goal is to move on. Last week, Veronica's parents finally spoke out. They actually sent me a handwritten letter, not a text or email. Although it wasn't quite an apology, I thought it may be. They wrote about how their love for their kid blinded them and how they failed to raise her properly. In order to pay off the obligations Veronica had accrued in their names, they acknowledged having to sell their home and relocate to a smaller space. Not for their benefit, but so they might have a relationship with their future grandkids. If I ever had any, they asked if I could find it in my heart to forgive them. I didn't answer. There are some issues that cannot be resolved verbally, and I have no desire to keep up any relationship with them. They only expressed regret once they became victims themselves, supported Veronica's actions for years, and attacked my character after I revealed her thievery. In fact, all of this has made Michael and I close friends. He recently launched a new bakery in the community, and we are discussing the possibility of working together on future initiatives. We both concur that we must not allow Veronica's actions to deter us from putting our faith in others and going for our goals. Now more than ever, my restaurant is doing well. In fact, more customers came in as a result of the attention surrounding Veronica's arrest. In an attempt to torment me, some even want to sit at the famous table, where she used to wait for hours. I now make fun of it with my employees, but we've also put strong security measures in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Although the legal proceedings are still going on, I'm not giving them any more attention. I have provided the prosecutors with the required statements and supporting paperwork. I'm done allowing Veronica to occupy space in my life, but her actions will be held against her in court. I occasionally reflect on how things might have gone differently if I had allowed myself to be manipulated by her and given her another chance. Like she did with the food truck, she most likely would have emptied my new restaurant as well. Rather, I followed my gut and refused to back down. I've discovered that getting even or disproving others isn't always the best form of retaliation. It's about turning a bad experience into something good. I've made real friends, my restaurant is doing well, and I'm at last at peace with all that has transpired. For anyone experiencing a similar situation, follow your instincts, document everything, and avoid being coerced into disregarding warning signs. Certain individuals reveal their true selves to you. Trust them the first time. My husband and I took in my best friend and her 3 kids after a tragedy, but now I'm regretting it. Original post, my 30F best friend, 29F, just recently lost her husband, home, car and all income. Her husband suddenly passed and was the only one working while she stayed at home with her 1 twins and 4 They had nowhere to go, so we took them in until she could save up enough to get an apartment. There was no life insurance. My husband isn't happy that they are here. He has told me that he does not like my friend at all, that she has taken me away from him and has taken his home away. He is paranoid that she is stealing our things when we aren't home and wants to put locks on our bedroom and office doors, as well as put cameras in them. Today my friend went into our room to smoke a cigarette on our patio to take a second away from her kids when we weren't home. She called me to tell me that she was going onto our patio, and my husband started freaking out. Now he says he feels like he needs to get an apartment, that he doesn't feel safe, he doesn't have a place in our home that they don't have access to. It breaks my heart that he hates my friend so much when she hasn't done anything, she's just going through one of the toughest times in her life. But I don't know if I'm being too trusting of my friend and inconsiderate of his feelings, or if he is being too paranoid. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, I think there needs to be discussion of a timeline for when she is leaving. He agreed to take her in the short term. At least that is the impression I got reading this. So he needs to chill a bit about them living in his space. That being said, suddenly having another woman he doesn't like and 3 kids in the house is understandably not awesome. I think the solution is to set a timeline for when she is leaving. Help her find a place, as her friend, but stick to the timeline. OOP. Downvoted. The agreement was a medium-term stay, 8 months to get her kids into daycare, get a job, save up for a car and home. I do think it was a mistake to not have a solid move-out date set for her. Definitely time to set that. She's only been here for a month now. OOP answers some questions. I agree that she should not have gone into our bedroom while we weren't home, and I need to reestablish these boundaries with her immediately. I have no problem with him putting the cameras and locks up if this makes him feel better, even though I will be talking with her. I don't have the option to be too afraid to talk to her. My husband is my priority over her feelings. Daycare/job. She is waiting to get approved for government daycare assistance, but yes, she is actively looking for work in daycare. She's only been with us for 1 month. The office door is always locked and she has not gone in there at all, and she has not gone into our bedroom besides that one time. I guess that I'm aware of. Commenter. If you are in the United States, the children would be eligible for Social Security benefits. You should encourage your friend to apply for those if she hasn't already. Your friend and her children may also qualify for Medicaid health benefits too. OOP. She has been applying for everything possible. I will make sure she also has applied for these. Thank you. Commenter. This OP, how long are they already in your home? Who is paying for food, diapers and the very important cigarettes? Are you so sure your husband is not right and she is snooping everywhere where she should not snoop? When you live with friends you get to know them. Why do you not let your husband put up cameras? Are you afraid he is right and do you not want to stand up against your friend for your husband? And if your husband is wrong he will be reassured. Look, it is a lousy situation for your friend to be in, but this is the choices her husband and she made. She has to get her shit together ASAP for her kids' sake. There's leaning on someone and taking advantage of someone. OP, she has been here for 1 month now. She is getting government assistance for food and diapers. We have a stash of cigarettes we've been giving her because we don't smoke, and a common gift from my husband's family when they visit from overseas are cigarettes. I have known this woman for 15 years, and I wouldn't for a second think she would steal from us. There is no way for me to know 100% unless we put cameras up, which we will be doing. We already have cameras in the front yard, backyard, and living room. It's not that I'm not letting him, I did think it was just a bit excessive. We can put locks and cameras up. I disagree on this situation being her fault, but I 100% agree she needs to get her life together for her and the kids. But it takes more than 1 month to do that, commenter. Not to mention that her OOP's husband is Chinese, which means other cultures, other ways of dealing with things, they are known to be very reserved compared to Occidental people. And from OP's post history, it seems that their home is a constant shelter for any friend of hers. I'd be freaking out too if I'd gotten married and ended up running a shelter for people, not being able to be with my family. And my family only, for some time. And we're not even talking about all the other issues here. Who's paying the bills, who's buying food for all of them, how even your very own bedroom is all of a sudden occupied by someone else. OP has to make a choice. Does she really want to be married? It seems to be the female version of the "my husband got married but is still behaving like he's single" story. OOP, yes, he is Chinese. Our home has not been a constant shelter, although I do need to be better at saying no to my friends in need. She is the second person to stay with us. The first friend was a disaster, and I won't make that mistake again. He was 100% on board with helping my current friend out. Her situation is heartbreaking, especially for her children. We did not want them to be homeless. There are a lot of details about their story that are just so *seeking sad. She has no bills and she gets government assistance for food and diapers. Our room and the office are off limits, and I will be re-establishing these rules and boundaries today. She cannot and will not be allowed to do what she did again. I disagree that I am acting single. We both agreed to help a family in need. But it's hard and I'm realizing I need to be more firm with her. But I cannot read the mind of someone who tells me there is no problem until 1 month in. Commenter, it's his home too. Was he even part of the decision? She needs to find her own place. She can't stay with you forever. OOP, we discussed the decision for a few weeks before letting her move in. We were both 100% on the same page at first, until now. It's obvious that she cannot stay forever. She has only been here for 1 month. To another commenter, he was at first. We were both kind of excited to have the kids here, since we have been trying for children for over a year. We discussed her moving in extensively before allowing her to, and he was 100% on board. To a third commenter asking if he had a say, he did, he's the one that originally brought it up. Commenter, why is she not staying with family? OOP, she has no reliable family. Honestly, it breaks my heart that absolutely no one on her side or her husband's family has helped or even reached out on their own. I've known her for 15 years and it's always been that way. She was staying with her grandparents in another state for a few months, but they are elderly with a lot of health problems and it became too much for them to handle in a 2-bedroom condo. To another commenter, her family is horrible. Her mother was in prison when she graduated high school, and her father kicked her out at 17 for not dropping out of school to care for his new child. It's very sad. His family. There was no contact with his family even before he passed, unfortunately. She's taking advantage of you. She is not taking us for granted at all. She keeps the house clean, cleans up after herself and her children, has assistance for groceries and diapers, waiting to get approved for other assistance. This is the only problem we've had with her in the month she's been here. Her situation is heartbreaking, especially for her 3 children. If it was just her, we would have said no. My husband and I were on the same page with letting her stay. We agreed to 8 months, but I do agree that we need to set a specific move-out date. Commenter, did you agree with your husband for her to stay for 8 months? Why save to get a car? She needs a deposit for house rental. She doesn't have a job. Who will help with childcare? I think you entered this in good faith, but it's such a burden to take on. OP. Yes, my husband set the 8 months timeline. She will need a car to get herself to and from work, as well as her children to and from daycare. Public transport where we are is non-existent. She's rebuilding from zero, it's gonna be hard. Commenter, 51% of Americans have life insurance, so it's actually more than half. It's very kind of you to help, But again, them not being prepared for life to happen is not your responsibility. You must pick your poison. OOP, agreed. But my husband and I cannot in good conscience let 3 babies be homeless because of their parents' bad decisions. Update post. This update is a few weeks overdue, but a lot has happened. It's so hard to fit every single detail of a situation in one post, especially while trying to respect my friend's privacy while going through such a rough time. But I took a lot of y'all's advice. I apologized to my husband and asked him what boundaries he has and what needs to change for him to feel more comfortable. We did have this conversation before they moved in, but things are so different than expected. I realized that I was putting my friend before my husband, and it was a harsh wake-up call. My husband wasn't thinking about leaving me, but he was definitely unhappy. I am glad we had this talk because we have been a lot happier being on the same page. Well, we sat down and talked to my friend, and it went great. She apologized for going into our bedroom when we weren't home and agreed that it was unacceptable and will not happen again. I told her the bedroom and study were off limits, no exceptions. Her children need to keep their toys in the playroom we made for them and not downstairs so they aren't taking over the entire house. She agreed to these things completely. We changed the door locks on the 2 rooms, as well as added cameras, and a safe for valuables. Most importantly, we told her she needed to get a job and her children in daycare ASAP and gave her a hard deadline of April 1st. She took the whole conversation really well and said she needed this to happen so she could get out of her sadness and start building her life for her and her kids. 5 days later, she got a job and found a daycare for her children. It's been a complete switch in the energy in the house. My husband and I are spending more time alone in our home together and all of our set boundaries have been respected. To everyone that said they'd never take in their friend and 3 kids, that is exactly why she has nowhere else to go. No one said yes. It's been rough on everyone, but my husband and I are confident in our decision to help, even more so now that we both feel listened to. He has also worked on his anger towards said friend and feels more at ease while talking to her and existing in the same space. It also helps that he sees she is taking our rules and deadlines seriously and acting accordingly. Reddit obliterated me, and while I don't agree with kicking her out, I appreciate the brutalness that made me realize I was not backing my husband the way I vowed to. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter. Children in daycare. You are delusional, she cannot afford that. OOP. No, she can't. She has assistants and found an in-home daycare that is working with her. She still has to pay some, but it's a lot more manageable. Her smoking. Her smoking isn't my concern. If I put my energy into micromanaging everything she does, I'd go insane. She got her children in a daycare and got a job. I'd say she is getting her shit together. Commenter. Yikes, April, she should be out of their way before then. OOP, 6 months to start from scratch is almost not enough time. We are happy with the move-out date. Commenter. I don't know if I said it in the other post or not, but keep in mind that if you let someone stay in your home, you will have a hell of a time getting rid of them if your friend suddenly decides she doesn't want to leave. OOP. I'm not sure how much these will actually help, but we did create a written contract with the rules and move out the date that we all signed. Maybe it won't really hold up in court, but it's something. Commenter. So glad things worked out. Friends needed some boundaries too. OOP. Yes. I was so stressed about having too many rules, I didn't even think about the fact that it'd be so helpful for her as well. Commenter. That's good y'all had the talk. I definitely couldn't take in someone and their 3 kids. But one thing for sure, and she should have definitely known this, is you never go through the owner's bedroom. That is like a sacred area. My parents never told me that as a kid, but I've always thought that. It's the one area in the house you do not enter without permission. No idea what she was thinking going in there. OOP, her kids just lost their dad and don't fully understand it. They have meltdowns sometimes, and at the worst they all have a meltdown at the same time. She was desperate for a safe space for herself, which I can understand, but she can't compromise our safe space in the meantime. Go out back or front and lock the door, lock the bathroom door, etc. Motherhood seems intense. Commenter. You did well considering taking in a single mom with 3 kids. We need more PPL like you and your husband. PPL who don't get scared to sacrifice their comfort over someone else's living. I am 100% sure, all the good deeds you do to those kids and mom will come back in 100x more. You never know what life is planned for you. Once my parents took in a woman with 6 kids, 2 own children and 4 adopted, where husband tragically lost his life. Since then I have 6 more siblings. I am grateful to Allah for them. OOP, it was not an easy decision to make and even more not easy living in it, but my heart broke as I witnessed them jump from house to house and have no idea what was happening or when they would see their dad again. My husband and I are fighting a fertility battle, so in a way I took all of my sadness of not being the same to conceive and poured it into the 3 little ones. The experience we've gotten to prepare us for parenthood has been irreplaceable, and the love I have for them is deeper than I could have ever expected. I truly hope that my husband and I made a difference in their lives, giving them a place to be stable and safe. Our discomfort has a checkout date, theirs doesn't. Thank you for sharing your story with me. My husband knocked out my brother for calling me a wasteriskry, and now my parents want me to choose. What is the right choice? Original post. Sorry for the throwaway account. I have colleagues on my main account and I want to keep this as private as possible but also need advice. As my title says basically. This past weekend me and my husband were over at my parents' house for a BBQ. The day was going great until my brother for some reason started to have a go at me. Calling me names and belittling me. My husband pulled my brother aside and had a talk with him and the insults stopped. An hour or so later we were standing around talking with some friends and family members and my brother came up to me and told me I'm a whore. His exact words were, "You know you are a fucking whore, right?" He said it loud enough for almost everyone at the party to hear. All I saw was my husband next to me look at me, then I felt a push to the side. My husband stepping in front of me and the next thing was my brother out cold on the ground with blood on his face. All I heard is my mother yelling and my husband saying, "You don't talk to my wife like that, I warned you already." Before I continue, my husband didn't hurt me, he didn't push me hard or anything like that. Don't know how to describe it but it was like a push that someone will give you when they are trying to pass. I went like one step back, that is all. I am not mad at my husband. I'm mad at my brother. The whole day he was demeaning me, insulting me, belittling me. I don't know where this came from as he has never talked to me like that or to anyone that I know of. The bigger problem is that I have to choose. Either my husband or my parents. My parents are pissed and have given me an ultimatum. I either leave my husband and divorce him or they cut me off completely. My husband doesn't give a crap that they are mad, the only thing he is mad about is that he only got one punch in his words. I love my husband and don't want to lose him but I also don't want to lose my parents. They have supported me through a lot and have always been there for me. I know they are serious as this is the first time they have ever issued me with an ultimatum. They also threatened my husband with an assault charge but he didn't care and welcomed them to do it. I'm stuck between a decision that will change my life forever and I'm panicking. I have received messages for friends and other family members that have given me support and condemned my husband but they are leaning more on the support side. Any advice will be appreciated. Edit to clarify, I'm choosing my husband. I have never questioned that but I also don't want to lose my family. I am very family oriented and family to me is everything. I want to find a solution where I can keep both. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Info: why do your parents think it's okay that your brother called you names? What is their excuse? OOP. They haven't excused his actions but they are condemning my husband for resorting to violence. Commenter 2. What kind of family does this stuff? It sounds very dysfunctional. What were the circumstances whereby your brother goes off on you like that? Now your parents issue an ultimatum? I appreciate that your husband stuck up for you, but that was a terrible political move. OOP. One thing about my husband, he is sweet and gentle but he has never cared what someone else thinks about him other than me, and his own mother. OOP's thoughts on violence and how her husband had done this to her brother. OOP. My husband doesn't resort to violence. I have never seen him really angry and what I saw in his face was just anger. I don't know how to describe it. This is the first time I have seen him react violently to anything. My husband doesn't care at all. The only peoples whose opinions matter to him is mine and his mother. My brother as well has never talked to me like that at all, this is the first time. OOP's husband needs to earn her parents' forgiveness for what he has done to their son/her brother. OOP. My husband honestly doesn't care. When I asked if he would apologize for reacting with violence just to keep the peace, he told me my brother and parents can go fuck themselves. My husband has tried to cheer me up, but he hasn't pushed anything on me. He hasn't given me an ultimatum to choose him or anything. He apologized for putting me in the position with my parents but he isn't sorry for knocking out my brother. In my husband's words, I asked him nicely to stop and I did tell him he will face the consequences if he continued and he didn't listen. He doesn't care what people think of him, the only opinions that matter to him are mine and his own mother. OOP on if she had dated someone before her husband. Any chances that her brother called her names for another reason like cheating? OOP, no. My husband was my first and I have never done anything else with anyone except my husband. Update. First, I would like to thank everyone and I want to apologize as well for the way I worded my post. It's no excuse but my emotional state isn't the best. Unable to link my previous post, Just look at the account. My husband is my choice and I have no intentions of leaving him at all, never have. I know it's early for an update but I'm more confused now about what is going on. My parents invited me over to have a talk with them but they wanted me to come alone as they didn't want my husband at their house. My husband refused to let me go alone and said if he isn't going then he won't allow me to. He basically said with you alone there they will just pile on you and that I won't let happen, so we went together. My parents weren't happy to see him and my mother wanted to say something until my husband told her he isn't there for them but me and if he is forced to leave I will leave with him. I agreed with him. Reluctantly they agreed. My brother was there as well. He has a broken nose and chipped teeth and refused to look at me or my husband. He just kept looking at the ground even while talking. Apparently what happened with my brother is that he broke up with his girlfriend a month ago. It's more like she broke up with him. Don't know the reason. Don't care. I wasn't aware of this as we aren't close like that. According to him the reason he had a go at me this weekend is because of my life. According to him, my perfect life with my husband kept popping up on his feeds and he got jealous. Everything on my social media is with my husband. I don't really use it for anything else but his feed was full of my posts and that set him off as I had something that he didn't. It got worse when he overheard me and my mother talking when I had a discussion with her over children. Me and my husband are currently trying to have a baby and that just made everything worse in his head. His life was falling apart and mine was going perfectly and was trying to have what he wanted with his ex. He said he didn't take my husband seriously when he pulled him aside and my husband warned him. I seriously don't know why he went after me as nothing he said was true in any sense and I did ask him why he said those things. He refused to answer me. I asked him why the whore comment because he knows my husband was my first in everything and it has only been him all these years. He refused to answer. I asked him if trying to have a baby with my husband makes me a whore as it involves sex and he just left the room. I asked my parents why they didn't step in and tell my brother to leave or stop. My dad said he wanted to but my mother told him to leave my brother as he is not actually hurting anyone. The same with the ultimatum, they wanted to protect my brother. I asked what about me and they were silent. All my father said was the ultimatum was my mother's idea and he went along with it. This is basically where we are at the moment. A lot more was said but I don't think it matters. My husband did apologize to my parents for what happened but refused to apologize to my brother. When my mother asked him to apologize to my brother he outright said no. He won't apologize for standing up for me and my brother got what he deserved. He was warned and didn't listen. My mother said it still doesn't excuse him for hitting my brother. My husband asked my dad what he would do if someone called his wife a whore. My father said I will have a talk with that person, but will never hit someone. My husband laughed and told my dad he is a weak-willed, spineless man if he allows someone to demean his wife like that. That got my mom red in the face. I could see her get angry. That is when I told my husband it's time to leave. I told my parents that I will be going low contact with them and the ultimatum they gave me broke the trust I had in them. I understand they wanted to protect my brother but in doing that they hurt me. This seemed to take all the anger out of my mother. They asked if I will be cutting them out completely and I told them that is up to them. I don't want anything to do with my brother at the moment as he can't even apologize for what he said to me. I told them if they can respect my wishes we will see. When we got up to leave my husband went over to my parents and actually still greeted them politely but told my dad it's time to grow a backbone. I don't know what I saw but I think it was a shame on my mother's face because my dad looked at my mother and she looked away from him. This is where we are at the moment. My husband on the way back home apologized for possibly escalating things but told me it was time someone told my dad the truth. He said whatever punishment comes he will take and deal with any fallout. I don't need to worry or stress about anything. Edit, my brother's ex cheated on him, and apparently he begged her to fix things but she chose the other guy and now he is just pissed and angry at every woman and believes we will all do that eventually. Got a message from my cousin. The family had a go at my parents for allowing my brother to talk to me the way he did and they came clean as to why he did what he did, but couldn't do it when I was over and we talked. They couldn't be honest with me and just refused to answer. Additional information from OOP. OOP. Honestly, really thinking about it. The only person I have felt genuine unconditional love and support from is my husband. There are a lot of things I just swept under the rug and thought it was siblings things, but looking back whenever my brother had a difficult time it was taken out on me in some way and my parents have never stuck up for me. My husband has had my back around every corner and has never thrown things in my face like my parents or brother have. OOP on her parents' relationship and why they are not hearing her out. OP. My father just follows what my mother said. In my 26 years of life I have never seen my dad go against my mother with anything. Anything she says or wants to do it fine with him no matter the cost. For instance, my dad basically has no friends as my mother didn't like them, so he gave them up and hasn't made new friends because when he tried, my mother finds something she doesn't like about that person and he agrees. OOP should have gone alone to talk with her parents and brother about her husband's behavior. OOP. So I should take the way he worded it over the fact that he wanted to be there and make sure I'm not getting gaslighted. I took it as he want to ensure I'm safe and what happens doesn't happen again. My wording is bad as my emotional state isn't the best that is on me and I should have probably double-checked everything before posting, but his emotional state can't be any better than mine. He is dealing with everything and on top of that he is trying his best to keep my mood up. I know it sounded bad, but I took what he said with all the other actions he took so far to keep me safe. My fiancé lied about being fluent in Korean for 3 years, and now I don't know what to think. Original post. I've been with Jimmy for 3 years now. We first met in college and we pretty much instantly hit it off. I'm full Korean while he's half Korean even though he doesn't look like it at all. I was slightly disappointed when I found out that he didn't speak Korean. Pretty much everyone in my family speaks it, so more than anything I thought it would be an issue, but it wasn't. He told me that he didn't know it but he was studying it, which I thought was a nice gesture. He met my parents for the first time and they speak English but prefer not to speak it much. My parents complained to me pretty much the entire night and even badmouthed him quite a bit because of his actions and not understanding. I didn't know at the time, but I really defended, and although most dinners at my parents' house were fake nice to him, I tried my best to stick up for him. The first time my parents met his dad and his sister, they spoke very poorly of them. It was downright insulting. His dad had some pretty rude, weird behavior that was frowned upon. I would always talk with my parents on the phone while we lived on campus, often on speakerphone, and Jimmy would just kind of play dumb. Even with my friends, many of them were very rude to him after I told them he didn't understand it. He proposed to me at our favorite park 3 months ago in Korean and I was so blown away by it. I thought it was the sweetest thing in the world. I cried for joy and happily accepted. I was so proud of him. Fast forward to last week, one of Jimmy's old-time friends had returned from his assignment overseas and met us for dinner, a really nice and respectable guy. And he talks and just full-blown starts speaking in Korean to Jimmy and I'm taken back. Oh, he doesn't know much, he's still learning. The guy scratches his head and goes, Jimmy is the guy who helped teach me Korean. What are you talking about? And at first I didn't know what to think. I was relieved and excited that Jimmy actually knew it, but the more I thought about it, the more angry I became. When I confronted him about why he didn't tell me sooner, he said that when his mother passed on his 18th birthday he stopped speaking altogether and just started telling people he didn't understand it. He said that it reminds him of her. Which is understandable, but I don't know if I can accept something like that. When I told my parents, my dad was overjoyed while my mother had a panicked look on herself as she recalled all the nasty things they said about him and his family in front of them. My dad seemed to brush it off and fully understood Jimmy's reasoning for not speaking it anymore, but I don't know if I can be so forgiving. I feel like he's been secretly spying on me for the past 3 years. He lied to me about it. Even my friends, he treated everyone so kindly even though they all at some point talked bad about him. I don't know if he's noble and romantic or if he's just been using it to his advantage. Our relationship is otherwise perfect and it seems like such a silly minor detail to get upset over, but I don't know. Any outside perspective or input? Am I wrong for not letting this go so lightly? I think he should have told me way sooner. TLDR, I found out through an old friend of my fiancé that he actually speaks and understands Korean fluently despite him telling me that he was learning it. I feel relieved yet betrayed and deceived. I don't know if I should let this go or what. Relevant comments. Caracat. Your parents and friends were acting rudely. They should apologize to him and hope he's happy to forgive. As for you, you're in a relationship for 3 years yet never took an interest in how his Korean studies were going or tried to have a conversation with him to practice what he's learned. OOP, not really. I would say little phrases here and there and he would respond according for the most part. I never actually sat down with him because everyone says they'll live a language someday. I didn't think he would actually stick with it. He always studied on his own time. Another kitty. I can understand being upset about being lied to, but I think what you're feeling is probably a lot of embarrassment about how your parents and friends acted. Sometimes people who are biracial are used to not being accepted by one or both sides of their cultures. No matter what he does, to some people Jimmy will never be Korean enough, even though that's part of who he is. You need to understand this, because if you have kids and they look a little like him, they might be treated like Jimmy one day too. Don't you wonder how your boyfriend was able to sit through all that abuse and not say anything? And why he would still be with you after all that? If anything, he has a right to be mad and judge you for having these kinds of people in your life. But maybe he is a calm enough person to know that when people say bad things about you, it shows you more about their character than yours. Or maybe, sadly, He has seen this kind of negative and judgmental behavior before from other relatives. I suspect that this might be the case. He is used to people judging him because they've judged all his life and he has learned to just brush it off. Like I said, I do understand feeling upset that he was completely honest with you. You want to be in a relationship with someone who is able to trust you. And 3 years is a long time. However, I can understand where he's coming from too. Talk it over. See if you can use this to come to a deeper understanding of each other. Maybe you can use this to become a stronger person who can stand up to your relatives and friends more. Or be a better example at least. And maybe you can have a better understanding of his heart and character. This may put a distance between you, but you can also choose to let it draw you closer. OOP. I'll admit a lot of my feeling is embarrassment after that dinner. When we got back to our apartment, I looked him in the eyes and cried like a little baby. I didn't really know what to say or do, and the only thing in my mind was how shitty my friends and family were to him and how he would face them over and over again willingly. You make good points, and I do think I'm being selfish trying to make this about me when it should be him or us. I want to see it in a positive way and use it to bring us closer. I guess I'm just like my parents when I say I have this small doubt in the back of my mind preventing me from doing so wholeheartedly. Update. First, I want to say that I admit I was totally wrong for trying to make this about me, and I realize my parents and friends as well as myself were all horrible people, which I agree with. I spoke with Jimmy the same day I posted the thread. I actually invited him over to my parents' place for dinner, but before that I stopped by his parents' house to apologize to him, his dad and his younger sister for everything because I felt so embarrassed and horrible. I apologized profusely to his dad, who did nothing but laugh. His dad was beyond understanding and actually spoke Korean quite well himself. He actually laughed, saying that he understands why my parents were the way they are. He even told me about the story of when he first met Jimmy's mom's parents in Korea and how much she warned him about their behavior. He said that she explained it to him and he understood and was able to respect where their concerns were coming from in terms of wanting to preserve their language and all heritage. He told me it started off rocky, but they shut up so fast when he surprised them and spoke it fluently. He said his relationship with her parents is stronger than ever, especially since she passed away, and he calls them twice a week just to chat. He said that when he heard that I stuck up for Jimmy, he was proud of me even though he never said anything. Jimmy's sister, she's only 12 but is super sweet and mature for her age. She said that when Jimmy started dating me was the day he started teaching and talking to her in Korean again. It was really precious the way she described it. His dad talks to her as well, but she really likes when Jimmy does it. As for Jimmy and I, we've been working together to resolve our communication issues, and we've spent a lot of time talking all about us. I admitted all my concerns and he addressed them one by one and told me exactly what I needed to hear. He apologized for keeping it from me for so long and told me that he didn't do it maliciously. He just didn't want to associate Korean with the negativity that my parents and friends brought. Which I find is extremely understandable. He said he regarded the language as something pure that he and his mother often shared together, that he didn't want to engage in with my parents and friends. He admitted that it probably sounded silly, but I understood him on an emotional level. He told me about how close he and his mom were. We had never talked this in depth about it before. And I cried like a little baby because I could tell how much he loved and missed her. He told me that she always warned him about the complications of marrying a full-blood Korean while he was a teenager, and he didn't truly understand until he met my parents and friends. I even found out that Jimmy was born and lived in Korea for 12 years. I feel like our relationship is stronger than ever. My doubts and worries are gone and we're going to be a lot more open with one another. I'm ashamed I ever tried to doubt him. He has been speaking Korean to me a lot more exclusively since I've apologized to him. Most probably won't understand, but he took me to see his mother's grave and it was probably one of the most touching moments I've ever had with him. I kneeling beside him listening as he told her about me, basically how he knew he had found the person he would make new memories with and how he would have to go back on a promise. I don't think I've ever cried so much in my life. I couldn't even stop. We had dinner with my parents on Tuesday and Jimmy spoke to them in Korean for the first time and my parents apologized for their tongue. I think I didn't make it as clear as I should in my original post, but after I defended him they cut back significantly. Jimmy apologized for their years of disappointment, teasing them for their original concerns. He told them a little about his mom, and when he told them his mother's maiden name, my father's eyes lit up. He didn't really go into detail, but he thinks he might have known of her family. It made him extremely chatty and open. I've never seen my father so excited to talk to someone before in my life. Jimmy also brought up that his family are planning a trip to Korea this summer and he offered to pay for all of us to come with them. My parents haven't been back in years and they happily accepted his offer. Jimmy is wonderful, really. I'm lucky to have him and I'll never let him go. Thanks for the advice. Edit. Jimmy's apology to my parents for years of disappointment was in a joking manner, not something sincere. It was meant as a joke and everyone laughed about it. Sort of like breaking ice or easing the tension in the room. TLDR, apologized to Jimmy and his dad and sister, learned about Jimmy's mother and a bit about his past. He's decided to speak Korean more. He forgave my parents and even offered to bring them to Korea with his dad and sister near the end of the summer. All around everything worked out perfectly. Relevant comments. Fixler Gumblies? This is all fine and good, but still your parents and friends who talked shit are pretty bad. Luckily your fiancé is actually Korean enough and we don't need to belittle him to his face. My parents and friends are very bad for talking shit in Korean when they thought he couldn't understand. I realize the magnitude of their actions and I've even told Jimmy that if he wanted us, or just himself, to go low or no contact with them then I would totally support and understand. I think my first post exaggerated the number of times they did. Then after I defended him the first time, they cut back significantly. If Jimmy is willing and able to forgive them then I'm just going to leave it at that. No point in me forcing an issue that he doesn't seem concerned over. He's a much better person than myself for sure, because I would hold it against them. But Jimmy values family bonds quite highly and he wants to have a relationship with my parents and he wants me to keep a good relationship with them as well. As for my friends, I'll be cutting many of them out of my life. Donnie Punani, I'm sorry, but I have to ask, how is Jimmy so forgiving of your parents? It seems like they were being downright shitbags to him for absolutely no reason. Is that a custom or something? Don't speak our language, we'll just talk shit behind your back. I'm surprised Jimmy could forgive your parents, but he's a better man than I am. I'm just a little upset at my own culture's exclusivity superiority complex, it's just so annoying at times. I feel the same way and honestly Jimmy is one of a kind I feel like in terms of forgiveness. But, after talking to him about his mom and family I realize that he regards family very highly and doesn't believe in cutting ties over insulting behavior. He told me that his grandparents are guilty of this superiority, exclusivity complex that my parents seem to have had. All I can say is that we'll try our best to break this cycle at least with our direct families. And I'll teach my future kids the importance of respect regardless of appearance or race or tongue. My brother's fiancé's prank on my husband led to a defensive reaction, causing tensions that make me reconsider attending their wedding. Original post. I am 25F, my husband is 30M. My brother 32M and his fiancée 31F recently came to visit us in our city. My partner and I are new homeowners and they were staying with us for the first time. My brother's fiancée loves Halloween. She is also a Disney adult and has a childlike side to her which comes out sometimes. She's just super involved, absorbed, when it comes to her interests. Anyway, I'm just sharing this for context because my perspective is that she often gets carried away and I genuinely feel what I'm going to describe was the result of one of those moments where she just took it too far and suffered some negative consequences. She is, however, taking it as a very personal attack. So we disagreed and the disagreement resulted in my husband cutting their visit short, aka they were asked to leave. 31F has made comments more than a few times now since meeting him, that my husband gives off a dark vibe. She is always comparing him to characters from various books she reads. It's not necessarily criticism, she always explains that they are compliments. Well, I'm not sure anymore. Her reasons for these comparisons are based on his looks, the general vibe he gives off and his tattoo. He only has one, but it's on his hand. During this recent visit, she mentioned she would love to see someone like him get scared because she can't imagine him getting startled or letting out a scream. Scaring him became her goal during her stay with us. None of us knew about it, not even my brother. The incident causing all the trouble is that she tried to jump scare my husband in the garage. It was dark and she ambushed him in the garage while wearing a full outfit and mask when he was returning from a run. Well, he didn't let out the scream she wanted. He instinctively reacted by shoving her against the wall. She hit her head and was quite shaken up. Luckily he realized very quickly by the sound she made that it likely wasn't an intruder. He switched the lights on and pulled her mask off. He told me he was very confused at the moment. Why would she attack him? My husband helped her inside, apologized, made her tea and then called me. I was out with my brother. When we got home, I asked 31F if she was okay and I said her prank was stupid to do because she could have gotten seriously hurt. I don't know if it was what I said that bothered her or if she was just waiting for her partner to come home, but she launched into crying about how my husband used an excessive amount of force knowing it was most likely her just doing a harmless prank. In a nutshell. My husband asked her straightforwardly, "Are you implying I intentionally assaulted you?" She hesitated but chose to say yes and my husband responded to that with "Get out of my house." I tried to smooth it, but my husband was adamant if that's what she genuinely believes, she's not welcome to stay. 31F chose to stick to her accusation. I decided to side with my husband. My brother is angry with me. He thinks I should have tried to do damage control and let them stay by convincing my husband to lean more into apologizing and placating his fiancée who was just recovering from the situation. He thinks this whole thing would have blown over if I'd helped my husband fold. I find this unfair. My brother was counting on me to handle all this, yet he didn't speak up during the conversation or try to talk sense into his fiancée. My husband remained calm the entire time, but he obviously felt insulted by her remarks, and I think that's valid. Why should I have taken my brother's fiancé's side over my own husband, especially when I feel like she was wrong for doing all that, then turning around and accusing my husband of wanting to hurt her? My brother says I was short-sighted and should think of their upcoming wedding, but I think he is the one who needs to get his fiancée to apologize to my husband. Editing to add the text below, in an attempt to answer some things that are getting lost in comments. I would like to clarify, when I meant I tried to smooth the situation, I was not taking 31F's side or doubting my husband in any way, I simply tried to get everyone to consider tabling this until emotions had cooled down. And by those emotions, I mean the hysterics of my brother's fiancée. My husband was calm throughout, although there was an obvious finality about his decision. He made his statement and disengaged. As mentioned, my brother looked to me hoping I'd persuade my husband, but I didn't, so they had to leave. The costume. I mentioned in a comment that I didn't get an opportunity to ask that night if she bought an outfit specifically for this prank, or if it was my brother's Halloween costume. They go to adult Halloween parties, and we're attending one this weekend 2 hours from where we live. It was part of my brother's costume. A mask, like a golden masquerade one but more coverage. It reminded me of the gold-jeweled animal masks from Squid Game, or something you'd wear to a Rothschild party in the 70s. And she had on a long robe cloak with a hood. People asked me to update. I will do that. Please look at my comments too in case I already answered a question you might have, but I think these two were the ones I saw pop up the most. I'm sorry I can't keep up with all the comments. I really tried. I will be showing this thread to my brother. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter. Info. What did your brother say when you explained how he should have leaned into having his future wife apologize because the whole thing would have blown over if he'd help her fold? OOP. He kept sticking to her being in shock and having the right to be upset because she got hurt, slammed against the wall. So instead of having a meaningful response, he kept downplaying her behavior and making excuses for her. He is saying he didn't want to invalidate her at that moment and that's why he stayed silent. And he feels that as a woman I should have spoken up to convince my husband to take full blame, try to make it up to her. I guess I'm learning a lot about my brother's relationship dynamic. Commenter. She seems inappropriately fixated on OP's husband. Why was she even pranking him to begin with? Do they normally have jokey banter? This is just so bizarre and I don't understand her thought process. OOP. I don't understand either. My husband has no banter with her. They don't have much of a rapport. All her impressions about him are just superficial ones she's made. She doesn't even know him. But she's the type of person who believes she is really good at reading people and convinces herself she's figured them out and what kind of person they are. She has tried guessing things about him in the past and she gets them wrong because she is basing him off her assumptions. I am sure she does this with other people she meets too. Could it be racially motivated? I don't think her behavior is racial. From my knowledge. She doesn't see him as a Disney villain but rather, like a dark type of character from books and TV shows and stuff. I shared her being a fan of Disney because I was trying to express that she gets really carried away by her interests and I think she loses sight of important things because she's too focused on whatever template she's referencing. He is just a calm and stoic person who is not very talkative. He is not shy, so I think he comes across as difficult to read and maybe a little intimidating because of that. He's just someone who observes more, isn't overly chatty and she doesn't even know him. She just fills the gaps in her knowledge about him with assumptions of who she thinks he is because she thinks she's good at reading people and figuring them out. She's not and has assumed wrong things about me too, but this is something she boasts as a skill of hers. I said it in another comment too. She makes confident guesses about my husband, but often gets it wrong. Dark. Oh wow. I'm learning via comments what dark actually means. And I don't get it, because my husband is not a mean person at all. I wouldn't even say he is brooding. He is just straightforward, calm and controlled and not a yapper like myself and the rest of my family, and her. Unapproachable. I can understand a little because of his stature. Being more of the silent type tends to make someone feel that way from a distance. But he has the warmest smile to bridge that. Sorry to hijack your comment, I know what you were saying. I honestly want to read some of these books now. just to try and see what she sees of my husband in all this. Because I don't see that. Update post. I got a lot of messages requesting an update. I have never made one before, so I hope I'm going about this correctly. Editor's note, remove the recap. I tried to talk to my brother multiple times after the incident, but each attempt ended in silence because I refused to give in to his demands. He wanted my husband and me to apologize to his fiancée, starting with me downplaying the whole situation so she wouldn't feel bad about her prank. I hesitated to send him the Reddit post I'd made. Initially, I thought it might work against us to make things worse. But his total inability to reason with me or see the situation for what it was became beyond frustrating. Since I couldn't physically deliver a cold hard slap to his face for asking me to be complacent and allowing my husband to be falsely accused of assault, I figured the next best thing would be for him to read all your comments. Following the advice I got here, I tried to get ahead of the situation by informing my parents. My dad, a reasonable and practical man, immediately sided with my husband. His comments were similar to what a lot of people here had said, focusing on how dangerous and reckless the prank was and the ramifications of being falsely accused of assault. My mom, who unfortunately has always favored my brother, suggested we at least hear her out, referring to my brother's fiancée. As livid as I was about her reaction, I wasn't surprised by it. My dad did try to shut down her skepticism, but she remained on my brother's side for a few days, until I showed them footage from my brother's Tesla, which he had tried to delete. The Sentry thing, sorry if I'm using the terminology incorrectly, I'm not a Tesla owner, recorded part of the interaction in the garage, not the jump scare itself. But the aftermath, which EMO was more crucial. My husband's account was confirmed. He used a measured amount of force to immobilize her and was prepared to escalate if necessary, which is beyond generous for someone to do in a situation like that, and definitely not owed. Many of you speculated that she might have a fixation or even a crush on my husband, and I'm starting to reconsider some past interactions with that in mind. I also misunderstood what a dark book she expressed she enjoyed, and compared my fiancé to. I learned from comments here that they are actually a subtype of the romance genre. I didn't know she was comparing him to characters in romance novels because one of the characters I recall her comparing my husband to was from a book about dragons. I genuinely wish I still remembered the names of various characters she's mentioned over the months so I could satisfy my own curiosity, but my brain glossed over the names during conversations. We have a group chat for the wedding, which includes my brother, my parents, my brother's fiancée, and her parents. In that chat I addressed the incident but didn't share the Tesla footage, only mentioned that it exists. Her parents didn't respond in the chat, though I know they saw the message. Later, her mom called mine. Apparently, they had no idea about the prank. It's hard to say whether they believe me or if they've taken their daughter's side after speaking with her. My brother's fiancée, and my brother, have both extended apologies to my husband, and have requested our presence at their upcoming wedding. My parents, trying to keep the peace, have encouraged us to go, saying it's the honorable thing to do. So, for the sake of family formality, we've decided to attend. However, my husband has made it clear that we'll be there out of obligation. We will be keeping a distance from them going forward. We haven't explicitly stated it, but there will be no future invitations to our home, not even for the holiday dinner we had planned before all this happened. My husband is going to minimize all future interaction with my brother's fiancée. I don't think we'll ever trust her again. I'll try to spend some one-on-one time with my brother to gauge where we stand. Our relationship feels strained, and this incident has made me realize that I lost him to her long before this happened, something I hadn't fully recognized until now. Thanks to everyone for sharing your opinions. A reporter from a news outlet reached out to me and I remember requesting that if anyone uses my story, I would like them to pass on the following sentiment. I hope that if you share my story, you can help highlight the dangers of ambush-style pranks. These types of pranks create a threatening environment and put everyone involved at risk of serious harm or injury. They are stupid and dangerous. No one should have to feel threatened or be put in a position where their safety is compromised for the sake of a prank. If that's the setup, then it's not a prank. Actions like these will always have consequences, some of which may be irreparable. And no prank is worth the risk of someone getting hurt. Editing to add a little footnote, I understand people get curious and invested. But please consider this my final update. If necessary, I will update again in the future, but it will be unlikely and I assure you it won't be anytime soon. I got a lot of DMs requesting updates on the previous post, so I thought I'd place this disclaimer here. And another edit to fix the formatting. I wrote this post in my notes app first, which was a dodo move apparently. Sorry I suck at this. Some of OOP's comments. Commenter, please make sure to keep a copy of that video and if possible a written statement from your future SIL. She can always backtrack and try to ruin your husband's life with a false accusation. OOP. We have a copy. My husband pulled the footage the night the incident happened while the rest of us were still talking. I didn't mention it in an edit because he was waiting to see if my brother would be willing to show it to us himself, and I was going to send the post I made to my brother. When my brother didn't bring it forward, I revealed it. Commenter: how did you get the footage from your brother's Tesla? Oop. He used my brother's phone to unlock it. You just have to bring it near the car. The phone doesn't have to be unlocked or anything. He pulled up the event and recorded a video of it with his phone. I know you didn't ask, but I'll just add this next thing too so other people can see more easily, since I sometimes can't keep up with answering all the comments. When it came to apologizing, my brother refused to be honest and claims he might have accidentally deleted it because he has, apparently, a habit of deleting all the footage since it records unnecessarily a lot and he rarely reviews it back. He claims since my husband got in and reviewed it first, the tablet in the car didn't show the notification for him when he turned the car on when they were leaving. He assumed it didn't record an event. Commenter: I think, since they both apologized, you are making the right decision by going to the wedding, but still keeping your distance in the future. Is the video good enough to see the look on her face after the prank went bad? OP. It started recording when he reacted to her, not before that. I'm guessing because it got triggered by the movement. I don't own a Tesla, but from walking past it myself while my brother was staying with us, I noticed it would record me. You can see the eyeball thing, when I would be grabbing something from my extra freezer, which is in our garage. I wouldn't have to touch the car or anything for this to happen. When the incident happened, my husband said it also flashed its lights suddenly, which was disorienting. The recording had that ghostly night vision look in the dark, so unfortunately both parties looked a bit weird in the footage up until my husband turned the lights on. When my husband shoved her against the wall, she had the mask still on, so you can't really see the look on her face. When he pushed it off, turned on the lights, he was obscuring her so no Scooby-Doo unmasking moment was caught on camera. Right after that, he backs off and is just exasperated. She is seen fixing and smoothing her hair repeatedly and has one hand on her chest, or heart I guess. I'm sure she was shocked, scared at the moment, but she accused him of slamming her knowing who she was, and that's not true. The video confirmed he slammed her before that, and just before the Tesla flashed the lights. At no point does she look afraid of him or anything like that. Edit to emphasize, the footage shows he doesn't touch her in any way after unmasking her. Commenter: I thought about it in the first post and I'm thinking about it now. What was her endgame? What did she want as a reaction? Or did she go in with head empty and no thoughts of energy? OP would be well advised to keep her husband far away from her STB sill until she starts showing some evidence of keeping fiction separate from reality. OP, my take as a person who has never read much romance books is that she just wanted to see if she could be the one to startle him. Like maybe she wanted to hear a girly scream escape my otherwise stoic husband who she doesn't really know anything about. Like not even enough to compare him to some fictional guys. I feel like this by itself would be viewed as an accomplishment by her, if she could claim she is the only one who has gotten such a reaction from him, brag about it. It seems juvenile. But she has bragged about similar things. Commenter: out of interest, is your husband objectively conventionally attractive? OP, maybe not in the chiseled male underwear model who looks too perfect kind of way, but he is objectively handsome. He is very tall with dark hair, athletic, and has good bone structure. But he's not flashy or someone who likes to draw attention to himself, so I don't know if his personality fits. He isn't brooding or morally gray or domineering. He is reserved, hard to read. I said in the other post that maybe his persona can come across intimidating from a distance because he's not very chatty and doesn't yap. But his smile can bridge that easily. He's not menacing. Or macho. Or controlling. Or cocky. I don't think he has any of those super toxic traits which probably add to the tension in those books. Brother. That's definitely my main concern. Having an irreversible falling out with my brother because of her. As it stands right now, my brother feels so unreachable, even my dad is struggling to connect with him. We're both worried this marriage is a mistake or something is going on with him that makes him feel he has to go through with it, so much so that he's unwilling to talk to us or even pause to reconsider. Commenter: okay, I'm guessing a slightly spicy book with dragons. Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. The male lead is on the darker side. His name is Zayden Rierson. I love reading, so if anyone has any other ideas, I'd like to hear about it. I can't imagine your brother taking the side of his fiancée pranking your husband. It screams obvious crush, let alone him choosing to marry her. OOP. Guys, Tism for the sleuthing. It's killing me not knowing what references she's made in the past because now I'm all of a sudden interested in trying to put myself in her brain. But IDK, if this book character is correct, I read the description and Zayden is brown tawny skinned. My husband has dark hair and a warm skin tone, but he's definitely not brown. But maybe it's not about the looks. I laughed when in the description it says his features are harsh and utterly perfect, as if an artist spent their lifetime carving and sculpting them, yet alone a year on his mouth. Commenter: why does your husband feel obligated to go to the wedding? OOP: he's only going to accompany me. So I'm the obligation. He made that known to my brother. I'm going at the request of my parents, grandparents, and if I'm super honest, I'm also going because I still hope my brother will come around and open up to me and be honest with me. Because throughout this whole ordeal, he hasn't been, and it just seems to me like something is wrong that he isn't sharing, something that goes beyond this incident. So in my head I'm giving him one final opportunity. Because the way things are right now, we are headed for no contact after the wedding, and I just know it will be easier for me if I feel like I did everything and have no regrets. I was abandoned by my family due to my golden sister's success. Now she's begging for help as the family business falls apart. Hello Reddit. I, 32F, never imagined that I would be sharing my entire being online, but here I am. My life was completely upended in a way I never anticipated. I was expelled from the house by my parents. And why? Because I managed to pay for my MBA without their invaluable assistance, and my sister, 36F, the golden child, couldn't tolerate it. Although it's a lengthy tale, I need to vent, and perhaps you guys might provide some guidance or simply a virtual shoulder to weep on. Allow me to illustrate the dynamics of my family for you. I've always been the underdog, the last in line, and the one who never quite fits in. It was obvious from the beginning that my sister was the favorite growing up in a suburban community just outside of Chicago. My folks would hold a parade if she received an A. It was like, oh cool, what's for dinner? If I received an A. You understand. Sarah, my sister, was always the center of attention. She seemed to do better at everything without really trying, and she was more attractive and gregarious. School plays? She took the lead. Captain of a sports team? Naturally. Grades? Perfect scores. I was the awkward bookish kid who didn't want to be in the spotlight and would rather sit in my room and code. My parents were enamored with Sarah as if she were a prodigy when she enrolled in a prestigious business school. They covered everything, including her tuition, fashionable clothes, her apartment in a fancy area of town, and even her excursions to Cancun over spring break. They were often boasting to anyone who will listen about their successful daughter because they were so proud of her. I kept my head down and assumed I would have to handle things alone in the interim. Despite taking out loans and working part-time jobs during my time in college, I was still able to earn honors in computer science. But was there a celebration for me? No, my mother just said, "Dear, that's nice. Have you looked at the pictures from Sarah's graduation? Wasn't she beautiful?" In the present, I have spent the last few years managing projects for a digital company. Although it pays the bills and is a fine job, I'm looking for more. One day, I hope to launch my own business, rise in my job, or even get into top management. I therefore made the decision to apply to a respectable university's MBA program. The catch? The cost of tuition is extremely high, 6 figures to be exact. I had the hope that my parents might lend me some support. After all, they funded Sarah's whole schooling, right? After a family supper one evening, I sat them down and, to my astonishment, the topic of conversation revolved around Sarah's most recent achievement at the family restaurant. I outlined my strategy, gave them an overview of the school, described how it would advance my career, and then tactfully brought up the topic of tuition. The expressions on their faces. It would seem as though I had asked them to sell their kidneys or something. They informed me outright that they couldn't pay my tuition, which is fine. I understand that MBAs are costly. But the fact that they refused to even co-sign a loan was what really infuriated me. I only wanted their assistance so I wouldn't be drowning in debt for the rest of my life, not to pay for everything. Their logic. We have already covered Sarah's tuition. Now is the time to consider our future. The worst part is that they also intended to grow the family restaurant. It seemed like they were investing all of their savings in that. What I was hearing was unbelievable. So you could afford Sarah's entire education, but you can't even co-sign a loan for me? Trying to speak steadily, I asked. Well, honey, Sarah's education was an investment in the family business, my mother boldly said. You have an MBA? That's only for you, isn't it? Only for me, as if I weren't related to them? As if they didn't care about my success? I was at a loss. My parents seemed to be putting unnecessary barriers in my path, but I didn't want to miss this chance. When it came to me, they had to be prudent and frugal, but they had no trouble spending a lot of money on Sarah. I had no choice but to ask my Aunt Margaret. Now, let me tell you that my dad's older sister, Aunt Margaret, is quite different from my parents. To be honest, she is far more successful than both of them and works as a neurosurgeon. She has always been nice to me though, and she's also quite grounded. There was always this strange tension between her and my parents. At family get-togethers, they would pretend to be courteous, but I could tell they were resentful of her success in comparison to their own. In particular, my dad detested feeling like he was overshadowed by her. When I was younger, I overheard arguments in which my dad accused Aunt Margaret of being conceited and defaming him. At first, I wasn't particularly interested in involving her, but I was desperate. One day, I contacted her to see whether she would be able to assist me with the tuition. I described the circumstances, my parents' refusal to assist, and the significance of this MBA to me. Aunt Margaret made no hesitation at all. "Of course I'll help," she said. "Why didn't you approach me earlier? It would be an honor for me to invest in your future because I've always believed you have a lot of promise." I felt so grateful, but I was also afraid my dad would find out. He would go crazy if he found out that I had approached his sister behind his back to request money. In order to keep it a secret, I pleaded with Aunt Margaret. Recognizing the complicated family dynamics at work, she concurred. After that, everything was well for a time. Since my tuition was paid for and I was preparing to begin my MBA school, I assumed I was safe. I felt both anxious and optimistic about the future. I felt like I was winning for once. Sarah made the decision to wreck everything at that point. I'm still not sure how she learned that I had asked Aunt Margaret for assistance. Perhaps she snooped through my emails when I wasn't looking, or perhaps she overheard a call. However, she did discover, and as the golden child that she is, she was unable to ignore it. She had to make it into a large, theatrical spectacle. After a long day at work, I was thrilled to share some news about my impending MBA orientation when I got home one evening. However, I could sense a problem as soon as I entered the room. The home was eerily silent, and the air felt heavy with stress. My heart fell as I walked to the living room. Everything I owned, including my books, clothes, and even my bedding, was put up in boxes. I felt as though the house was erasing me. Sarah was standing off to the side with this smug, self-satisfied expression on her face while my parents were seated on the couch, their emotions a mixture of disappointment and rage. I had the impression that I had entered a perverse intervention. My father wasted no time. "Explain this," he asked, tossing me a pile of papers. I picked up the papers with trembling hands, not understanding a word he was saying. I became aware that Sarah had completely lost her mind at that point. She had created these fictitious emails between Aunt Margaret and me, giving the impression that I was betraying the family. The emails gave the impression that I had given Aunt Margaret the trade secrets of our family restaurant in return for her covering my tuition. Recipes, supplier details, and even the restaurant's finances were discussed. I didn't really have access to any of these things, but Sarah did. My eyes were unbelievable. After looking through my laptop, Sarah discovered several emails that I had sent with Aunt Margaret, which she subsequently altered using Photoshop or some other program. She painted me as a traitor of some sort, as though I had betrayed our family. I was taken aback. "This isn't real." I stumbled my way out. "These emails are fraudulent, I would never do this." My parents, however, didn't even pay attention. My mom was crying as they stood there, and my dad was furious and red-faced. He said, "We trusted you, and you stabbed us in the back." They trusted Sarah, regardless of what I said. Since they obviously did. She was always believed by them. It felt as though I had vanished from the world and that all the years I had spent being a good daughter, working hard and never getting into trouble, were in vain. I knew then and there that I would always be second best in their eyes. They would always have doubts about me. My father said, "You must go," in a chilly tone. "We won't have a traitor in this house." I pleaded with them to think again. I made an effort to clarify the MBA and how Aunt Margaret was only assisting me, much like they had assisted Sarah. My parents didn't care, but I didn't want to burden Aunt Margaret, especially since she had already promised to cover my tuition. They claimed I was a traitor and refused to interact with me. Sarah simply stood there the entire time, her arrogant expression never changing. Her eyes said louder than words could. She had prevailed. The sister, whom she always viewed as a rival, was finally gone. That was it. I only had a few boxes of my belongings and the clothing on my back when I fled. I noticed the neighbors looking out their windows while I was loading my car, presumably curious about the drama. I felt totally alone, deceived and embarrassed. As soon as I was in my car, I called Aunt Margaret, crying so hard that I could not speak. Without asking any questions, she told me to come to her apartment right away. Without her, I'm not sure how I would have made it through. I'm currently residing at Aunt Margaret's home. With her offer of a place to stay and her assurance that she still wants to assist with my MBA, she has been a tremendous support system. Nevertheless, I vividly remember that night. Sarah standing there with that arrogant expression on her face, knowing she had won, my parents glaring at me like I was a criminal, and all of my belongings packed away when I walked into my house. I don't know. I'm not sure what to do, Reddit. A part of me wants to defend myself and show that Sarah was lying. If I looked closely enough, I could certainly find proof that the emails were forged, but I also want to break all connections and never look back. For those who are so eager to assume the worst of me, why should I fight? How can I possibly comprehend this betrayal? Given that my own family has abandoned me, how can I go on? In a few weeks, the MBA program will begin and I should be thrilled. However, I'm coping with this emotional trauma instead. I keep going over everything again in my mind, wondering if I missed any clues. Was Sarah this cunning all the time? Were my parents as eager to discard me all the time? After this, how can I ever trust anyone again? Aunt Margaret advises me to concentrate on the chances my MBA will present for my future. Although it's difficult to look past the hurt and rage in the moment, she claims that achievement is the best form of retaliation. I would appreciate any guidance. From here, how do I reconstruct my life? Given that my own sister would go to such extent to harm me, how do I handle this? And when I feel so damaged on the inside, how do I interact with my MBA program instructors and classmates? Here, I feel like I'm drowning. Give me a lifeline, Reddit, if you can. Update 1. It's been a long time, 3 years to be precise, Reddit. Since I last wrote about my family throwing me out, a lot has happened. I wanted to let you know how things have progressed. I started by finishing my MBA program, which had a profound impact on me. I was in a lot of mental upheaval when I first started, but I was able to focus all of that energy on my academics. I graduated at the top of my class, but it wasn't easy. The girl who constantly felt inferior is no longer there. She has been replaced with a lady who is confident in her abilities and doesn't hesitate to express them. I got a job at a prestigious consulting business after graduating. I love my job, but it's tough. I'm in a setting where my abilities and diligence are truly valued for the first time in my life. No more living in the shadow of others. During all of this, Aunt Margaret has been a rock. She's become the loving family I never had, not just a place to stay. We discuss everything from her most intriguing medical cases to my most recent professional endeavor during our weekly dinners. I've learned so much from her about defending my rights and appreciating my own worth. 3 years of radio silence about Sarah and my parents. No emails, texts, or phone calls. It was painful at first. However, as time went on, I came to see that their absence was enabling me to develop in ways that I could not have while living with them. I've created a proud life for myself, free from the need for approval and continual comparisons. However, life can be unpredictable. Last Saturday, just when I thought I had everything worked out, Sarah arrived at my door. I nearly failed to identify her. The air of superiority and the fancy attire vanished. She was wearing a basic sweater and jeans that had seen better days, and she had big circles under her eyes and her hair pulled up in a hurry. She looked discouraged. "Hey," she said in a little voice. "Can we talk?" Curiosity overcame my want to slam the door in her face. I opened the door for her. Sarah sat uncomfortably fidgeting on the couch. "I need your help," she blurted out at last. "The eatery is having problems. Serious problems. The family firm," she said, "was close to going bankrupt. Our parents' much anticipated large expansion had turned out to be a complete failure. They were drowning in debt because they had overextended themselves and took out large loans." When Sarah said, "Dad's talking about filing for bankruptcy," her voice broke. "Mom is in disarray, and I'm at a loss for what to do. Despite my best efforts, I am unable to resolve this." As I listened, I experienced a range of feelings. I had a sick sense of satisfaction. Wasn't this retribution for the way they handled me? However, I also experienced a twinge of, not quite pity, but a near feeling. "Why are you telling me this?" I inquired. "What do you expect me to do?" Sarah's eyes were filled with desperation as she gazed at me. "You're doing fantastically in your new work and with your MBA. I hope you may be able to assist, offer some guidance, or—" I understood what she was asking, but she didn't finish the phrase. She desired money. The black sheep is being rescued by the golden child. The irony was nearly unbearable. I said, let me get this straight, maintaining a calm voice. After everything that happened, after 3 years of silence, you show up asking for help. Sarah was gracious enough to appear embarrassed. Quietly, I know I messed up, she said. I felt envious. All right. You were always so capable and intelligent. I lost it when I learned that Aunt Margaret was assisting you. I apologize. After 3 years, all she could do was apologize. It was dreadfully insufficient. Sorry doesn't cut it, Sarah, I responded. You have no idea what I've been through because of what you did. I know, she responded, her eyes welling with tears. But we're still related, aren't we? Family members support one another. Just give it some thought, please. Family. The word struck me hard. After everything that had transpired, were we still related? I informed Sarah that I needed some time to reflect. With a disappointed expression, she left her number and left. And now I'm here, attempting to decide what to do. On the one hand, I've put a lot of effort into creating this new life for myself. The familial drama, the incessant comparisons, and the sense of inadequacy have all finally left me. Is it really my intention to become entangled in all of it again? However, a tiny part of me still gives a damn. I feel something when I consider my parents' bankruptcy, not quite pity, but also not disinterest. However, there is a part of me that sees this as a chance to show them what they lost when they rejected me. To definitively demonstrate that I am not the failure they have always believed me to be. However, is it worthwhile? After the way they treated me, do I owe them anything? And would things truly change even if I did help? Or, regardless of what I do, would I always be the second best daughter? Reddit, I'm conflicted. How would you respond if I were you? Should I defend myself and let my family work out their own problems, or should I assist them and run the danger of getting injured again? I've been thinking about it for the past few days, but I'm still not convinced. A part of me wants to step up, offer them a helping hand and pull them out of this mess. It might present an opportunity to re-establish our friendship on more equal terms. Another part of me, though, is screaming to go away. I'm still recovering from the profound damage they caused me. Would I truly want to expose myself to that suffering once more? Aunt Margaret and I have discussed it. As usual, she has been encouraging, telling me that she will support me no matter what. However, she cautioned me as well. Sometimes helping others means sacrificing yourself, she stated. Make sure you're not setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. I've been distracted recently, and my coworkers have noticed. Some have listened sympathetically, but I haven't told them the specifics. One of them stated, sometimes the most professional thing you can do is to keep your personal life separate from your work. That statement has stayed with me ever since. The MBA courses on crisis management and corporate turnarounds are still on my mind. It's likely that I could assist them and provide a strategy for escaping this situation. Should I though? Am I accountable? What about the apologies from Sarah? Is it sufficient? Is this just another ploy, or can I believe that she truly feels bad? I'm also concerned about how it might affect my personal financial security. Even though I'm doing well now, I'm not exactly making a ton of money. Assisting them might jeopardize my future ambitions. One thing is certain, this time, whatever I decide, it will be on my terms. I've changed from being that insecure, terrified girl. No matter what occurs with my family, I will always be a strong, accomplished woman who recognizes her value. What do you think, Reddit? Should I put my own health first and let my family deal with the fallout from their choices, or should I offer them assistance? I'd greatly benefit from an independent viewpoint on this. Update 2. It's me again, Reddit. Things have taken a crazy turn since my previous update, and I can't believe I'm back so quickly. Do you recall how I debated whether or not to assist my family with their restaurant problems? The cosmos, however, chose to give me still another surprise. My parents arrived at my workplace a week following Sarah's visit. You read correctly, my office. They just showed up in the lobby one afternoon after somehow figuring out where I work. Talk about a systemic shock. My assistant buzzed me while I was in the middle of a meeting to let me know that 2 people were requesting to see me. My heart almost stopped when she told me about them. Feeling as though I was walking to my own death, I excused myself from the meeting and proceeded to the lobby. My parents were there, looking older and more worn out than I had recalled. Dad's shoulders were hunched in a manner I had never seen before, and Mom's hair had turned fully gray. The weight of 3 years of stillness hung between us as we simply stared at one another for a minute. Dad finally stated, "We need to talk," in a rough yet oddly diminutive voice. I took them to a coffee shop nearby since I didn't want to have this discussion at work. An uneasy hush descended upon us as we sat down with our beverages. Determined not to make things easy for them, I waited for them to speak. Mom was the first to break. She added, "We were wrong," in a shaky voice. "We ought never to have expelled you. We ought to have paid attention to you. We sincerely apologize. Over the last 3 years I had dreamed of this moment countless times, but now that it was actually occurring, I felt nothing. There was only a hollow emptiness, no relief, no joy, not even rage." Dad added his voice. "You should return home. We can overcome this difficult period as a family once more." To give myself some time, I took a drink of my coffee. "Why now?" At last, I inquired. "Why after 3 years of silence?" After they looked at each other, I realized there was more to this tale. The depth of their desperation became evident as they started to explain. The restaurant was a total failure, not merely having financial difficulties. In addition to going overboard with the expansion, they had been taking shortcuts and breaching the law to stay afloat, including tax evasion, health code infractions, and even some dubious supplier transactions. They now faced possible criminal penalties in addition to bankruptcy. Dad said, "We need your help," in a voice that was just audible above a whisper. "Your business knowledge, your connections, you could save us?" Stunned, I sat there. My parents, who had dismissed me on false pretenses and had always viewed me as second best, now viewed me as their only hope. "Let me get this straight," I remarked, finding it difficult to maintain my composure. "You kicked me out, believed the worst of me without any proof, didn't contact me for 3 years, and now you want me to bail you out of your illegal activities?" Mom attempted to grasp my hand as she reached across the table. I retreated. With tears in her eyes, she continued, "We know we don't deserve your help. However, we remain family. We're at a loss on what to do, so please." Family. That word was used once more. However, as I observed them, I came to the realization that they were no longer members of my family. Aunt Margaret, a member of my family, had given me unwavering support. My family consisted of the friends I had established at work and in my MBA program who respected me for who I was. I inhaled deeply. I said, "I'm sorry," and I was surprised at how composed I felt. "But I am unable to assist you. What you're asking, money isn't the only factor. You're asking me to sacrifice all I've worked so hard to achieve, including my job and principles. I'm not capable of doing it." Their shocked expressions were nearly funny. They obviously didn't think I would say no. Anger colored Dad's face. "After everything we've done for you," I interrupted him. "What have you done for me?" "You mean denying me support for my education when you paid for Sarah's, excluding me on false pretenses and favoring her throughout my life?" Now Mom was crying aloud. "Please, sweetie, we'll lose everything." I experienced a little pang of guilt. Then I thought back on the previous 3 years, including the hardships, the suffering, and the development and accomplishments I had made on my own. I stood up and said, "I'm sorry you're in this situation, but these are the results of your own actions. I am unable to save you." "We'll be ruined," Dad yelled as I turned to go. "Is it your preference?" I stopped and turned to face them. "I want you to accept responsibility for your actions," I stated. "I want you to understand how much you lost when you threw me out. What I really want, though, is to be free of your drama and manipulation." I left my parents behind and left the coffee shop after that. I felt as though a burden had been lifted as I entered the street. I had finally chosen myself, set my boundaries, and confronted them. However, the tale doesn't stop there. I gave that confrontation a lot of thought. I came to the realization that merely leaving was insufficient. My parents' actions were unlawful, and if they persisted, others might suffer harm. I therefore had to make a tough choice. I reported what I learned about the restaurant's unlawful operations to the appropriate authorities, including the police, the IRS, and the health department. Although I knew it was the right decision, it wasn't an easy one. The consequences were severe and quick. Screaming and sobbing, Sarah called me and accused me of ruining the family. I don't know what grounds my parents believed they had, but they alternated between pleading for assistance and threatening legal action in their voicemails. But I didn't back down. I informed the authorities of what I knew and made it apparent that I was not involved in any unlawful activity. Aunt Margaret was there for me during the difficult few weeks, reassuring me that I was acting morally. Although the inquiry is still underway, the eatery has reportedly been closed while a thorough audit is conducted. Sarah and my parents are facing severe legal repercussions. Although it's not a joyful conclusion, it's a fair one. In my case, I'm doing all right, actually better than all right. With everything, there's a feeling of closure. The harmful family dynamics that hindered me for so long have now been broken. I have a successful career. I've even received an approach regarding a possible promotion. I feel like I've found a true professional home because of how supportive my coworkers have been during this process. I've never been closer to Aunt Margaret. After everything calms down, we're arranging a trip together, so we have something to look forward to after all this worry. I'm not going to act like it's been simple. There are times when I question whether I made the correct decision and feel bad. However, I know I made the correct decision when I think back on all the suffering they inflicted on me, including the years of manipulation and partiality. Here I am then. I felt confused and alone after being evicted from my house 3 years ago. I am now independent, prosperous in my work, surrounded by individuals who truly care about me, and at last free from my family's poisonous influence. Although some may have wished for a joyous family reunion, this is my tale, and I'm glad of the progress I've made. Remember this: if you're struggling with toxic family members or tough choices, you have the right to put your own health first. You are entitled to establish limits. Additionally, there are instances when the family you choose matters more than the one you were born into. I appreciate Reddit's support along this journey. You have no idea how much your guidance and assistance have meant. Cheers to fresh starts and making our own happiness.